All right, good. Once again, good morning. We're ready to get started for our meeting of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine. I am going to call this meeting to order, and we do have 6 out of 7 members of the board, so we do have a quorum. Before you, everybody should have a copy of the agenda, and I am looking to adopt that agenda, so I would entertain a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second, John, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Excellent. The agenda is adopted. Similarly, everyone should have received a copy of the minutes from our November 13th, 2025 meeting, and I would likewise entertain a motion to adopt those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Do we have a court report?
No, not today. We don't have any hearings that occur on.
Okay, I am not going to swear in a court report. So before us now is the second public hearing on fees, fines, civil penalties, and continuing education. Proposed rule LSA number 25-432. Again, this is the second public hearing, LSA document number 25-432, involving fees, fines, civil penalties, and continuing education. This is a public hearing being held on January 29th, 2026 at 1202 East 38th Street, Discovery Hall, Suite 100, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46205, and electronically through Microsoft Teams at 9:12 a.m. local time. This hearing is being conducted pursuant to the laws of the state of Indiana found in Indiana Code 4-22-2 before 7 members of the Indiana Board of Veterinary Medicine. Notice of this second public hearing, along with the full text of the proposed rule, excuse me, was published in the Indiana Register on December 17th, 2025. The primary purpose of the hearing is to receive public comment on LSA document number 25-432 concerning fees, fines, civil penalties, and continuing education. My name is Jerry Rodenbarger, and I am serving as the hearing officer for this board. The following members of the board are sitting with me on this hearing: Paul Clemente, DVM, Stephen Sunbury, DVM, John Schneider, DVM, Kelly Peelman, DVM, Ashley Selke, registered veterinary technician, and Natalie Goodwin, consumer member. Any individuals wishing to address the board are requested to provide their names and addresses for the official record. Please direct your comments to the chair, myself. Each public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Does anyone wish to make a comment, either in person here or online? Seeing and hearing none, these proceedings are hereby concluded. Thank you very much. Okay. Any discussion?
There's nothing changed since the last time you guys voted on it. We had submitted it to the Attorney General's office, and they said that because the RBT Association had made a comment that they considered to be substantive, we needed to have a second comment period.
Thank you. Okay, everyone being familiar with what's before us, I would entertain a motion to accept this rule.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Do we need to do a roll call for this? Or is it aye and a nay? Okay. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay. We're going to personal appearances.
Yeah, Darren's first.
Okay.
And
We're at personal appearances under probation. Saw Darren here. Darren Miller, please. Thanks so much for coming to see us on a cold day.
No problem.
I think I was teasing a little when I said last time that, hey, we really like seeing you here. Come on in when you did it electronically. I'm sorry to drag you in. But
Oh,
we're glad to see you.
I'll let you know that I let him come virtually, and he insisted that you said that he had to appear in person. I had to go back and watch. And it was ambiguous, but he is here because he's serious.
I owe you gas money.
Despite my history, I do like following the rules.
I was just testing you, I
Yeah.
think is how it was. But anyway, and I'm sure we all have, but I've read the report with regard to how you're doing from Ann Kelly. Why don't you give us a little update on what's been going on since we last chatted with you?
Yeah, everything's been kind of going the same as far as the testing and everything like that. Everything's been good. Other than that, I've been kind of busy starting or doing my new business, the Valley or Mobile Veterinary Services, and it's been going really well. I'm having quite a bit of fun with it actually. So it's been about 5 months. Been going pretty solid with that. So it's been good. And I think it's been a blessing for the community and for me too.
So what kind of mobile work are you doing?
So it's primarily what I've been doing so far is just in-home type veterinary care. So vaccines, wellness. I do sick animal calls, that kind of thing. I also have been doing emergency services, more of an urgent care, emergency triage type service. Because our Terre Haute, there really isn't any, but there's I think one clinic that offers emergency services to our to their clients only. So the closest place for everybody in Terre Haute is really Indianapolis. A lot of things. There's some things I can't handle, obviously, blood cats, foreign bodies, anything that requires advanced diagnostics. So I send them to Indianapolis, but a lot of it I can handle kind of in the home. A lot of at-home euthanasias. That's pretty popular. And then starting this spring, I'm going to start doing some large animal type work too, because our area is kind of in need of that as well. Kind of a couple of vets are retiring or slowing down quite a bit, and so kind of fits into my practice model.
So are you trying to get a blood draw on a sick Chihuahua with the owner holding it?
So I do have the good thing is I do have a vet assistant. Well, the research business. So one of the employees there doubles as my vet assistant if I suspect we're going to need to do blood draw or something like that on a cat or a dog. I bring them with me. So it's been working pretty well so far. So
Good.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Doing that 24 hours when you're on? Or?
Yeah. And really, in our area, at least so far, I haven't. The emergency calls are, I get maybe 5 or 6 a week after 7 o'clock. And I don't think I've had one or two calls in the past 5 months after midnight. So it's very manageable. Terre Haute used to have kind of a collaboration emergency clinic. Since it's been probably 10, 15 years ago now. But they couldn't keep the staff. There's just not enough cases, and that's what I'm kind of seeing out there too. And a lot of the stuff's not, they're not real emergencies, like ICU type emergencies. They're laceration repair, vomiting dog, colitis type emergencies. So
Convenient for them to call.
yes, much better than driving to Indy, and then you never know, might have to sit in the lobby for 3, 4, 5 hours. So I think it's definitely, it's been popular. It's got legs. Let's put it that way. So.
Well, don't get too stressed and worn out. That can't be good for your situation and your wonderful improvement. So
yeah, no, I was worried about that too. But it's been busy enough to keep me busy, but not so much that it's like I want to pull my hair out type things. I got like 3 or 4 appointments when I get back today, which is very manageable.
are you still interactive with the group at your church?
Oh yeah, yep. Still involved. I go every Friday evenings for Celebrate Recovery, church on Sunday, and then I sometimes hit a meeting during the week, depending on what my schedule's looking like. My evenings get pretty booked up, but so yeah, still heavily involved in that.
Good. Trying to do kind of a reversal from my communication with you on the last time you were interacting with us. We probably are good with every 6 months or even every 9 months, something like that, as long as you're passing all your tests and compliant. Not that we don't want to see you, but you're doing wonderfully, and we celebrate that with you. So we can do something along those lines. You're thinking maybe the October meeting would be great to check in with us.
Sure.
As far as the board's concerned, everybody okay with that? Okay.
Darren, I had one quick question. Do you have like a home-based hospital for patients you see?
Yes, I still work with Sullivan County Animal Hospital. I work there, usually I do mornings, like I'll be there tomorrow morning. Typically I'm there Thursday mornings, and then every other Saturday I work for them. And then, so if I have a case where they don't have like a home clinic to go to, I work with a lot of the local clinics. But if they don't have somewhere to go to, then I can send them to Sullivan County. They've got, it's full service thing.
So you have a pancreatitis dog that needs IVs and hospitalization for a couple of days. You've got a mechanism to do that.
I can, yeah. So the way I work my emergencies is, and I tell people this on the phone, is I'll come out, triage, kind of see where we're at, and if I think it needs to be in a hospital that night, I send it to typically Plainfield Airport Animal Emergency Center. So,
Anything else from the board?
Do you want, in October, do you want them to appear in person or remotely?
I'm going to ask the board what they would like to have. I took advantage of him last time. So.
I think we're good with remote as long as the paperwork from the veterinary well-being comes through okay. I agree with that.
okay.
And if it's a beautiful day and you need a break and you want to go for a drive, you're welcome to come.
That was kind of the idea this morning.
Lovely day for a drive today. Right?
Yeah, right.
I'll get out of it.
All right.
Thanks for coming. Good luck and keep up the good work.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right.
Before we move on, Dr. Shipman, we created a flow chart for personal appearances based off of positive response rules. To kind of remind you guys of what your options are. Dr. Shipman likes flow charts. My brain doesn't comprehend.
Well, and I like going with the flow.
There you go.
That's all good.
Basically, your 3 options are to renew free and clear, renew on probation with agreement of the licensee with, requirements of attending at least an addictionology or program or something like that, or deny.
Another option would be to file a complaint with AG.
I mean, yeah, you can renew and file a complaint with the AG if you want, but.
It's very helpful. Excellent. Okay.
Well, yeah, and I think he's online.
Okay, we're ready to move on with personal appearances, renewals, reinstatements. Ian, are you online with us? Dr. Woodall? Hello?
He might be on mute.
Are you muted by chance?
I do not see it.
Oh, he's not on
I
it.
don't see it. I'm looking at the attendees list right now.
Okay.
Do you want to move on? And if he comes back, comes to us, we can come back to him?
Yep.
Okay. Caitlin, are you with us? Go ahead and come on up and have a seat. Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for coming to talk with us. We appreciate it very much. Give me just a second to get my act together here.
How do you say your last name?
Big house.
I was at home like, house, body house. I was like, it's cool name.
We had a discussion on that as well.
Sorry.
There was,
How do
you
you
know,
say it?
That's why he went by your first
Baiting
name.
house.
that's exactly right. I just,
White.
I
okay,
tried to get them on the right track.
Thank
Go
you.
with Caitlin. I think I can handle that. So we didn't have any betting going. Otherwise, I'd be looking for collection. Anyhow, again, thanks for being here. Could you run us through a little bit the before, during, and after of what has you here now? Why you had to mark
Yeah.
yes, and what that was all about.
Yep, so just busy one night and forgot to take care of cattle and went to go take care of my cattle, and I had been drinking several hours beforehand, so I got pulled over, got an OWI, and spent a year on probation, 6 months reporting, 6 months non-reporting, and I completed my probation as of December 7th, so I have been off of probation.
I was looking at the police report,
Mhm.
and were you stopped at basically 3 a.m.?
Yeah, about 3 a.m.
That's when you were going to work, take care of your
I
cattle?
left about midnight to go work on the cattle, and then got stuck at the farm for quite a while, so. Then we headed home, and that's when I got pulled over.
Okay. And not that this is important, but I'm just kind of curious, compared to where your home is to where the cattle is, how far is that? And
About 15 minutes.
15 minutes?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
so the farm is just a little distant from where your home is?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
I get that. Did I also see that you're planning to retire? Is that right? And how's that relate to your desire for licensure?
So I currently am on like relief work. I have several of my own businesses that I run. I only go in and I work when they need help, extra help, if somebody's on vacation and things like that. I have a great relationship with the owner of the company, and I've been there for 15 years. So I do like to stay on and help them out when they need it.
The company,
Bright Veterinary Clinic is who I work for, Dr. Steve Hubbard.
okay,
So I just kind of do some relief work here and there for them when people are out on vacation and things like that. So I kind of put that on the back burner about 2 years ago. I own a real estate company. I own a high-end remodel and custom cabinetry shop, and I do taxidermy and things like that. So I'm quite busy and don't have time to be a full-time employee for the vet clinic.
well, on the busyness situation, you sound extremely talented with regard to a number of different business things you're doing.
Mhm.
Are you willing to share what some of those are?
Yeah, I work for Mossy Properties as a real estate agent. I've been an agent for 3 years now. My husband's been an agent for 7. So we kind of took over the team aspect on that, focusing on southeastern Indiana. So we do about $5 million in sales every year on that. My husband's father owns a custom cabinetry shop. He's owned that for going on 30 years, I'd say. We are in the process of taking that company over at the moment. We've been working hard for the last year on that. I've been doing taxidermy since I was 21, so stayed quite busy with that and run cattle also. So I got about 20 head of cattle that we, breed and raise up and slaughter. So just staying quite busy.
Okay, you're making me feel kind of lazy here with regard to what I'm trying to manage to do. I won't deny it. I was a little jealous when I saw that, I don't know, I think you're about 30 or something like that, and that you were thinking about, it said in there that you were thinking about retiring, and I'm going, okay, I'm in my 70s and I'm still hitting it, so I'm doing something wrong, so.
I also run, we have several investment properties, so I also manage all of those too. So it keeps me extra busy.
Okay. Comments, thoughts, questions from the board?
Maybe you can clarify this. Was there someone with you again, did you say?
My sister was going with me to help me,
Okay.
yeah.
So that's the reason for the
Endangerment,
endangerment?
yes.
But the way I understand it, there was no accident involved?
Nope.
Okay. Other questions or thoughts or feelings on the direction we should move with regard to Dr. Shipman's flow chart?
There's another thing I'd mention on this flow chart. Another option is to place them on probation. That's not really listed on here. It's the first option, but this time it says renew, refer.
Right, but it would be refer, and then they agree to probation up there in the top in the yellow. So as a condition of probation, right here.
See, clearance in my brain work the same. That's,
Yeah.
I think everybody's gonna think
But
refer to
it's on
veterinary wellbeing program.
On the two options.
Yeah.
I have a question about the veterinary well-being program. Does that also provide it to veterinary technicians or just veterinary?
I think that's veterinarians only.
That's what I
I,
thought too, but I just wanted to make
that's come up
sure.
before, and I know that goes back to when the Technician Association wasn't as active as what it is now.
Mhm.
But that was all set up for veterinarians only.
I know, but you can actually refer them to the program for an assessment first before you put them on probation, because as long as you're within that 120-day period.
Yeah, but then the other options are renew and place on probation, renew and file complaint with AG. Now, I technically say that's kind of like probation if you're referring to the vet wellbeing program, because then there's
Well, it's also
a condition
voluntary.
they gotta go by.
It's voluntary.
Bringing you back into the discussion again here. Could you tell me a little bit about the court-provided alcohol and drug program?
It was
What hoops you jumped through and what you did?
It was started with an assessment, and then a 4-week
And
court.
who did that assessment? Was that an addictionologist or?
It was the probation officer that did that, and then moved into a 4-week, once a week for 4 weeks course for basically explaining how alcohol and drug addiction works, and if, you're an alcoholic and things like that, so how to manage your alcohol and stuff like that.
And do you still drink and how much?
I've had a handful since I've been off probation. I did just celebrate my 30th birthday, but
I saw that.
we just went ice fishing and we had a couple of beers for lunch, so that was about it.
Okay. Often we'll consider having an addictionologist actually assess and make sure you're good to go, mostly for your protection. Your probation officer, that is not specifically their deal.
Mhm.
And so education-wise, being able to properly assess that maybe not the best. A consideration, just kind of talking to you and the board, would be for us to have you have that done and then come back and see us, hopefully at the next meeting. That potentially could avoid having your license renewed on probation, but rather having a license renewal free and clear, so that that's not in your record permanently. So what's the board's thoughts on that?
Just FYI, we've received information in the IBMA that the wellbeing program is for veterinary.
Okay. So trying to get you additional help would probably only be needed if the addictionologist thought that that was necessary. Then we'd have to look elsewhere because the veterinary wellbeing program wouldn't be an option for you.
Okay.
Board?
I think in this situation, a lot of times the board, if they're actually on criminal probation, they put them on probation, but essentially it's not. I think they've approved in the past.
Yeah, I think she completed the course ordered by the court, and there's no longer a probation on her license to drive. And all those things have been satisfied. I guess I don't have any qualms with renewal.
I appreciate that because I'm normally the lenient one. So I just wanted to make sure that we didn't feel we needed to do more.
I mean, it's not like there was open containers in the car.
It says there's alcohol beverage containers in the seat. So I was probably
There
asking
was
about-
one unopened, yes, in the backseat, yes.
Yeah, but it wasn't open.
Correct.
You weren't.
Nope.
Drinking
No,
one hand and driving with the other hand. So
Correct.
I guess the way I.
When did this all take, when were you, I can look it up, but when did this happen?
December 10th of 24.
Okay, so just last year,
So no,
or 2 years.
she's
Yeah,
off
2 years
probation
ago.
and
I'm
done.
sorry.
And when, you were off probation, you said in December?
December 7th.
Okay. I guess I would agree with Paul.
I do too. I just threw that out there for discussion. I would entertain a motion from the floor.
I'll make a motion that we renew the RVT license for Kate without any stipulation.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second. Can I add a comment to these motions?
Sure.
I just want to make sure that, especially after reading our letter from our, one of the consumers last meeting or in the notes, I just want to make sure that we are sanctioning accordingly to everybody and that it's fair and that the consumers see that it's fair. But I also agree with the nomenclature that if they're not on criminal probation, which she has already done, that we do not put them on probation as well. So I agree with the motions. I just wanted to add in a comment that I want to make sure that we provide that clarity for consumers.
Noted. Thank you. I also think there's a level of just how egregious this is and that sort of thing, which kind of dictates how
And it
far
says
we
she was
go.
right above the legal limit, just barely.
So, back to our motion in a second. Let's take a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. You're all set.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Julie Miller's body has considered. Have a good day.
Thank you too.
No wonder.
Okay.
She's doing it.
Okay, yeah, we were rechecking to see if Ian had gotten on the line, and there's no evidence that he's with us at this point. So I think we'll continue to move on with renewals and reinstatements. And Amy Graves, are you with us?
I am.
I was guessing that was you, but I didn't know that for sure. Why don't you come up, go on up and have a seat, please? Well, welcome. Some of our initial commentary and questioning is going to be very similar to what you just set through. And so why don't we start with a little bit of background, what you're presently doing, why it is that you had to come before us today, and the situation surrounding that.
Sure.
Just
Let my
go for
computer
it.
come up for just a second. I had my thoughts
Okay.
on my computer.
So that little machine's going to tell you what to say.
Well, I didn't want to leave anything out, but my name is Amy Graves. I am a registered veterinary technician, a Purdue graduate. I've been a registered veterinary technician since 1990. This is the first issue I've ever had with any law or anything. I've worked in small animal, equine, emergency, academia, pharmaceutical sales. As a pharmaceutical sales rep, I was in industry sales for about 20 years where I drove a company car, and safety was always a major factor. I have my driving record, and from 2010 until this incident, I had gone, about 15 years, whatever, without a single speeding ticket, accident, anything.
So you're saying you like to drive fast, just not in the last 15 years?
Just don't get caught. No.
That's what I was looking
No, it's too hard when you're out on the road as 800 miles a week or whatever I was driving for my job.
Statistics go up.
Yeah, it's like, it's kind of hard to hide it. If you're the odds are not in your favor if you're a lead foot or a reckless driver, not at all. But no, the incident that happened, again, I was cited for OWI, and I had experienced an emotional trauma. I found out that my husband at the time, had taken intimate photos and videos of me and had distributed them. And I had found that out, and it was quite devastating, quite humiliating. And I obviously did not handle that news very well. And I was home in my home. My children were with their dad. I was home trying to process this information that I had received, and I left to go get a pack of cigarettes, and that's when I was stopped. So since then, I have done all my community service. Like you were asking that other lady about the drug and alcohol counseling. I met one-on-one with their addiction counselor. Obviously, the first meeting's like an assessment, and through talking and everything, she's like, I don't really think you fall into that program. So we just met one-on-one, her and I, and talked through things. Although I did go and attend Celebrate Recovery a couple times just on my own to see, and I know that Celebrate Recovery is a faith-based program, and that's very important to me, being my faith. And I work at Huntington University, so I have that Christian faith in that background. I'm glad.
I'm sorry, is that, you said that's what you're doing now?
Yes, I work at Huntington University. Huntington University has a partnership with
That's
Purdue.
where I knew your name.
I recognize you from your videos. So we have a partnership with Purdue University for the distance learning program, or the veterinary technology program. So students can come to Huntington University and get a bachelor's degree in animal health. It's not animal science, it's animal health. And I just proposed and got approved for the fall, starting in fall, where they could also choose a major. They get their associate's degree from Purdue on the online veterinary technology, and then they get a bachelor's degree in either animal health, or they can choose business foundations. I have a master's degree in business management, and I know how veterinary technicians move into leadership roles within the hospitals or administrations, with corporate medicine being what it is, having the the skills and knowledge and experience as a veterinary technician, but also having that business acumen can be very valuable in their careers. And I've never left the career. I love the career. Financially, it's more rewarding to be in an industry or things like that. So I just wanted to make sure that other veterinary technicians who love the industry, love the animals, love what they were doing and helping the people would be able to stay involved in the industry as passionate, because we're all very passionate about it. And so that's one of the things that I proposed and got approved. And fall of 26, students will be able to choose that as a career path or a major at Huntington University.
Okay. I know when you told us what drove this whole incident, that was a little stressful and emotional for you. How are you doing? Are you
Well,
doing okay?
Yeah, with my prayer circle, my faith. Obviously, it was really hard to talk about because of the embarrassment, the humiliation, the betrayal of all of that. But I have a strong circle of my prayer circle, my faith. I did file criminal complaint or whatever. However, from the time the images were posted until I found out about them, statute of limitation had expired, but I can seek civil recourse.
Were you aware, and apologize, I'm just
No, that's fine.
curious standpoint, that pictures were being taken?
No, it was not done with my knowledge or consent.
Like a hidden camera or something, or feed thing, or, wow, okay.
And he did it to show off to one of his friends. And I wouldn't have found out about it, but the friend that received these images contacted me because him and his wife were going through counseling, marital counseling or whatever, and it came up. And the therapist said, "You have to tell her she's a victim. You have to tell her." So I'm glad I know, so now I can do something about it, maybe.
Sure. Do you socially still drink?
No. I've never been a big drinker. Like I said, in pharmaceutical sales, I can't drink and drive, or if you're out socializing, I got a company car. So, and with my girlfriends, they always knew Amy would be the DD because she's driving the company car and she's not going to drink and drive. So, but no, it was just not the right way to handle a stressful situation. I was embarrassed. You don't want to tell your mom, your sister, your friends, it's humiliating to have that information and know literally that you're, vulnerable and exposed like that. So I was trying to process what was happening, what this all meant, who'd seen, what it all, it hadn't all come to light, what it was, what it wasn't, all that stuff. So, but yeah, I went to
It sounds like you don't have time to socially drink at this point. You're doing so much. It's impressive. No more evening trips to Aldi. Thank
No.
God that that's where
Oh.
you got your wine that night. So
Yeah.
anyway, comments or questions from the board?
So Amy, is there an endangerment charge in this one too? Did I misread that?
I think it said because the police officer we kind of passed like this on the curvy
You
road,
swerved a little.
and he thought I swerved a little bit into his lane or at the stop sign, took the stop sign a little too wide. I don't really know
So
exactly.
he thought you were endangering him, not somebody.
Right. There was nobody else in my car. And nobody was injured. Thank God.
This was in Columbia City?
Yes.
What road were you on?
Do you know where the fairgrounds are?
Yeah,
Do you know where the First Church of God is?
yes.
Okay, I live in that housing addition, Deer Chase Housing Addition. And so it's just back roads up to the Pack-a-Sack. Is where I went to get cigarettes and then went back kind of that curvy road, Getz Road.
Pretty well aware.
Okay, yeah.
I think his notes were that she almost hit his feet.
Blood alcohol 0.129 is what was in the report, and I guess the officers write-up, some of the back and forth discussion, he'd asked you how much you had to drink, and you said 2 glasses, and then failing the test, and then he asked you again, and you said, maybe I can't count. There was some other back and forth that,
Yes, it's quite embarrassing.
yeah, I guess. And then, but then it was negotiated down, I mean, 0.129 normally would be a different charge. I guess I don't know how that happens, or, I don't know what the ins and outs of it are, but.
I don't know either. That's what it ended up with, or what my lawyer maybe had, I don't know.
Put it in that range. There's a range of 0.08 to 0.15.
Yeah.
So they put it down into that range. Because if you go over the 0.15, that's much more serious. We've dealt with that as being more egregious in the past, when you're talking about consistency.
And I do know, being married to a police officer, that having 2 drinks is the number one answer for everyone. It's just a natural reaction. That's the number one most identified answer for that question.
You're talking about the interaction with the officer. I just thought it was, in a weird way, kind of cute when he said, "Ma'am, I think you're pretty drunk," and you said, "You think so?" At least is what it said, and he goes, "Yes." So, but when we talk about being consistent in our ruling, I think that background and circumstance and behavior after the fact is important to consider as well when we make that decision.
So we are currently on probation through the court system.
Still,
Yes, until May.
So that also has been something we've into when we make these decisions.
as far as waiting until the legal is finished. So one of our options then is to basically send you on your way, not make a ruling on this, right? And have you come back in or no? She what now?
She needs her license, so she would need.
I thought in the past we actually delayed the decision.
Yeah, but it's only within that 120-day period, and that's gonna be in May. That'll expire in May, and so we would have to wait until July to bring her back after that. So renewing on probation would be more appropriate for this one.
Okay, all right. I guess
If
I
she
didn't have the
consents.
timing down. Didn't I? So.
Amy, have you done, did you do the 40 hours?
Yes.
community service? What did you do there?
I did a variety of things. The Humane Shelter in Columbia City, and then the food bank is something that Huntington University helps support in Huntington County, and so I did some time there. And then also I did, and they counted, I was an FFA judge for the national contest for vet science.
Was there any concern with Huntington University based on this?
Since we don't have, I'm not really dealing with live animals or drugs, and obviously being a Christian university, they understand, grace and second chances, and obviously I've learned and know history. It was a bad decision, and we all fall short.
So they're aware of what transpired then,
Yes,
and you're still actively
Yes.
teaching?
yes. That would be quite disruptive to the program,
Right.
so, yeah. For the students,
I looked on my case and it said you're with Community Corrections, you had to take an alcohol course. Have you completed that?
yes,
Yeah, when I looked on my case, it looked like her probation was like suspended. She had a suspended sentence and she had community corrections. She's completed that, so
Hold on, my case.
my recommendation was just to approve free and clear, but probation was also an option. So the board knows.
However, did you just say they suspended her
Her
probation?
sentence, so it didn't technically, it didn't really look like probation to me when I looked at my case. It was just community corrections, complete the alcohol course. And I didn't see whether there was any type of time limit on it.
Her sentence, instead of going to jail, her sentence is suspended on probation. That's what that means.
Well,
I have my
so
case
I
if
didn't-
you need it. So
I didn't see a time limit though, or I didn't see probation.
if I don't have any other issues for a year, then it's something like that. It's, yeah. I don't know what it's called.
Diversion.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm leaning towards licensure with probation rather than a date. Did you get a certificate or anything like that from the alcohol and drug court?
Well, like I said, I didn't go, I met one-on-one with the counselor. She says normally, yes, you can go through like this course where there's a lot of people that meet. She goes, I don't think that's applicable to you. So let's just you and I meet one-on-one. Her name's Julie, and she said that she'd write a letter if you wanted her to or needed that, if you would not, yeah, she'd be willing to do that. And then, like I said, voluntarily, I've gone, it wasn't required or asked of me, but I did go to Celebrate Recovery, which I'm glad I went because I don't want to go down the road. I kind of felt in a way out of place. I mean, I'm not out of place. I obviously had a problem with alcohol that night. And, but other people have, problems and losing their kids and multiple. And I'm just like, okay, I do not want to go down this road. This is not going to be me in my life. So I'm glad I went, but I didn't have all the ins and outs of things that they'd experienced and things they were having to deal with through the courts. And it's like, I'm very lucky and very fortunate, and I don't want that to be my life.
I think the biggest thing we're dealing with is the fact that you still have probation hanging over your head with
Mhm.
regard to the legality side of this thing. And so if indeed that is the case, and I think it is, then for you to have licensure, we're pretty much stuck with licensure granted with probation, and then for potentially just 6 months. And then have you get back to see us in that time frame. You can get those reports or other things that we can look at, and then we can discuss that when we meet back together.
Absolutely.
She said she could get a letter from,
Right.
I think that would be, getting a letter from your,
Julie, my counselor?
yeah, Julia, yeah. And then come back in July, is that right? That's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean, she would be, I would say a minimum of 6 months of probation. And then, but do you want a personal appearance in April?
It would be nice to have that information come into us, so we'll have it for that next meeting. So we will just dictate that we get that, have it available to us. I don't know that we're gonna learn anything in an April meeting. Paul, what do you think?
Yeah, I was gonna say, generally, once the criminal probation's complete, we usually take the person off probation with their license veterinary.
Allow them to request, and then we make
Yeah,
it.
so if they
It's not
come,
an automatic.
That's usually the way we
would they come back for the hearing to request to be off probation that next time?
Yeah, so once the criminal probation is over in May, you can email me and ask to come off of probation, and then I would schedule you for a hearing at a time meeting.
Okay.
So your RVT license would be on probation basically till our July meeting.
One question I have, looking through the judgment, jail sentence for 1 year, credit for time served, which was 2 days, and then the rest suspended. And that was ordered on the date of September the 2nd, 2025. But is that retroactive to when the arrest happened, or is it that 1 year start on the date of the order?
Well,
Because that takes us to September if that's the case.
Yeah, we don't know, but I think she's saying that she might be able to get off of probation early in May. Is that?
Right, that's what my lawyer explained to me, it's 1 year from the date it happened. Right, that's when the clock started, so to speak, is what she explained
That's
to me.
what I'm verifying.
Yeah,
The order would be of indefinite probation for a minimum of 6 months. And then if she's not off of criminal probation in May, then she just wouldn't request to come off until she does, which could be September for the October meeting or even after that, whatever happens.
Any negative thoughts on what we have before us as the direction to go here?
So Amy, you're gonna continue with that Celebrate Recovery type group or?
sure, yes, yeah.
Is any
It's very
information-
uplifting. I like all the music and stuff. It's very positive. Very positive.
So,
The one-on-one talking sometimes can be a downer, but
so any information about that program you can provide us
sure,
would help.
yes. I mean, they don't really take attendance, but
No.
it's private, so I mean, but yes, who's the director and, you know, when they
Right,
meet,
just
no,
something
yeah,
in
absolutely, yeah.
general And how often you,
Yeah, it's at the center there across from the
You could get that to us by April,
fire department.
for our April meeting, along with a letter from Julia. And then come back and say it's July, everything's all right. Am I getting that right?
well, and you send it all at once after the probation in May too. It's just so we have all our ducks in a row for the July meeting.
All right. I'll roll with that.
So I'm looking for motion to grant licensure under probation for a minimum of 6 months. Second.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We'll get you taken care of.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today.
You bet.
Thanks for your understanding.
Thank you for coming.
Yes. Everybody drive safe now. It was nice to see you in person.
Just as a sidelight, I've known Amy for 40
You don't need the
years.
name.
40,
We were both children, right?
yeah. She was our local rep. A couple of different companies, so.
Yeah, and Purdue doesn't get any slack for the Huntington students, like, they have to keep on course with their bachelor's, plus they start 1 week later than the regular EL students, but they have to keep up with everything just the same.
I did get some of that change because it was overwhelming that
Oh, yeah.
first semester. And so we were living and learning, and I'm like, we got to make it fair and for the students. So because we want people to progress through and be technicians. So we're trying to get more out there in the field. So, but we have made some changes. But yeah, the Purdue. But that's what I tell them. I'm like, if you get a degree from Purdue, you're top notch. So
How many do you have right now?
there's 12.
Because your
This is only our third cohort. Fall was our,
your second class, I think you had 11.
we did quite a few, and that's one of the other things too, is we're noticing that, the Huntington, in the handbook, it says a 940 SAT score, but they can go to committee and get admitted. But what we're finding is with this being so scientifically rigorous and intense, they have to come in with the science and the math, and they're not being successful. And so it's not fair to set students up for, for failure. Let's set them up for success. So that's going to be one of the requirements, or your first semester, take some of those prereqs that get you the science, the math, and the chemistry that you need to then progress on with the program. So we've done some shuffling. Purdue has made some changes. You've dropped some of your credit requirements. We did too, so that works well. It was a good timing to adjust some of that curriculum and how we stack things, so.
I know the intenseness of my anatomy class, so.
Yes, and the students are coming, yeah, and they had 9 classes. Yeah, even though some of them were like 1 or 2 credits, it still was like 8 classes that they had to manage deadlines and syllabus, and I'm like, this is too much. We gotta revamp it. We gotta make it fair. We gotta make it, something that people can achieve. And that's what we want to do. Well, we're living, we're learning, we're trying, so. So, appreciate working with you. But anatomy's hard to learn online. I kid you
Yeah,
not.
that's why I have videos so that students can hear like the pronunciation of words. Because like if you just distance learning, you're just reading them, you don't know what they sound like. And so people are like, that's how you say it? I'm like,
Yeah, and that's some of the things I go through, because we do meet that first semester for the freshmen, we do meet twice a week. So they get to have that bonding with their classmates, they get to have their, start their study groups or whatever. And we go through some of the terminology and break it down, and how do you break down the words, and how do you say the words. And we are looking at some different lab space for me, so maybe I can get some cadavers and things like that, and have some more of that hands-on and different things like that. So again, we're living, we're learning, and we're trying to progress. But I'm excited about the opportunity and what's coming down the road. So, anything else you need from me?
Hang in there.
All right, thank you. All right, stay warm, drive safe.
"Safe drive."
Okay, we're going to stay in personal appearances and under renewals and reinstatements. Ian, I think you're online now, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm right here.
Excellent. Well, we're glad you were able to connect with us. We've all had a chance to look at your information, and kind of as with our previous folks that have come before us, if you could give us a little background, everything from what you're doing for a living, how you came to get into the difficulty that you did, some of that, please.
Yeah. So I'm a large animal only practitioner in the state of Kentucky right now. I moved from Lexington, where I was working equine only, to I moved back to my hometown in southern Kentucky. I was, and I do large animal only, probably about 60% equine and the other 40% dairy and beef cattle here. But the night that I had the trouble, I had been working in the spring, and I'd been working in Indiana, probably 2 times a week. I would drive to Montgomery, Indiana, to Amish population there. They did not have a large animal vet at all in a very large area. And so I would work really late nights there trying to see and help all that I could. And then for the night in question, I had traveled to Louisville to go to Churchill Downs, was there with a friend. And then that night I wanted to get home because it was the middle of the breeding season and I do a lot of repro work. Decided to go on and drive, and I didn't get pulled over or anything, but I fell asleep at a light. I was trying to get to a hotel. I thought myself falling asleep. That's when when I fell asleep at the light, that's when the cops had showed up. I was very cooperative with them, talked to them, did everything they needed. I was not charged with the DUI. That's what I was trying to show, that it was just a reckless driving cause. It was just a traffic violation. I paid the fee, and everything's been good since then. I'm sorry I had such trouble trying to get the paperwork to you guys, because the charges had been changed. It wasn't the same case number. So the case number I had, I was basically chasing something that didn't exist. But I was able to get that form into you guys yesterday. I finally found it after a lot of calling. But that's kind of the quick. If there's any questions about any of it, I'd be happy to answer that. So
Okay, we do have some information from the police, and I guess you had been drinking, though. Is
yeah,
that correct?
I had drinks. Yeah, in prior night I had 2 drinks there at the track earlier in the night, I was honest with the cops and told them that. So, but yes, sir, I had some drinks.
Okay, I understand that from the writing that you declined any kind of testing at the site. Is that correct? And that they saw that you had glossy red eyes, commonly seen with someone who's intoxicated,
Yeah.
but that you had refused to blow for the test. Is that correct?
That is correct. I did. So
Okay.
I just refused at the time and just was cooperative with them. And like I said, I wasn't charged with the DUI when they looked back at everything. So it was just the reckless driving.
Okay. You must have been in a pretty heavy sleep for people to be banging on the door and them calling EMS thinking that you had collapsed over the wheel.
Yeah, no, I was in a very heavy sleep. I sleep very heavy, but again, was not a good decision on my part. I should have just stayed where I was at. But again, like I said, I've learned from the decisions and asked everything that was asked of me and was very respectable and with them. But I didn't want to blow at the time, and so they understood, and I went through all their procedures they needed me to.
And you got your licensure in 23, is that correct?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. What is your social drinking status at this point?
Well, I've actually have not had a drink in over 3 months. Just personally, I decided to make some changes when I moved home, and I'm not like in any kind of AA meetings or anything like that. But no, I'm proud to say that I've been sober for 3 months myself. But that's where I'm at as far as socially drinking.
Okay. From the board, questions, thoughts?
So Ian, were you on Highway 64 between Louisville and Lexington?
Yes, sir. I was off on the Hirschhorn exit there at the traffic light.
So you had pulled off 64. You had
Yes.
gotten off.
Yes, sir. I had gotten off the interstate. Yes, sir.
So the light you were stopped at sleeping, were you like right by a hotel? Is that the deal?
Yeah, there's a Ramada Inn right there across the road. That's where I was headed.
Okay.
I think it's a notable thing that you declined the breathalyzer. That implies guilt and that you were concerned you weren't going to pass it, which is more than just a couple of beers of a different location.
Yeah, I'd had like I said, I had 2 to 3 mixed drinks that night. Again, it's been a little bit since the incident. Again, that's what I had been advised by for like from other people if they had ever been in that situation. So that's just what I did. But again, like I said, I was cooperative, and that's the only thing I refused. If they wanted to pull blood, they were more than welcome to pull blood. I told them they could do that at the station, but they didn't. So I just, again, like I said, was just very respectful and asked everything they did of me.
It just seems a little odd. A lot of our cases, if the person refuses to blow on site, usually the police will get a warrant and haul you in and get a blood draw. Thoughts as to why that didn't happen?
I really don't know, sir. I mean, that's completely within their right, and they could have done that. Again, I think I don't know. They just decided not to. I really don't know. Maybe just because I was polite and respectful, and I was honest with them, and so maybe that's why they didn't. I really don't know. But I did have I did for 6 months while I did have a breathalyzer in my vehicle. while this was all getting straightened out before it got reduced to the
Do we have a blood
Uh,
alcohol?
reckless driving.
And if there's no judge available at that time of night, then they can't get a warrant, and it's past so many hours, then it's relevant. So,
He still did receive a conviction as reckless driving.
So since he refused and there wasn't a warrant for his blood, then it was just dropped down to reckless. And he has a legal right to refuse, so you can't penalize him for that. But right now, he's not on criminal probation. I think he said he had to pay a fine for the reckless driving charge, which I think was a misdemeanor, so,
Is he on probation now?
no.
There wasn't any.
He was not convicted of an alcohol-related
You
offense.
don't do that, you do it out in the country.
It's hard for us to put them on probation. They didn't put them on probation. So,
I make a
And you-
motion.
I'm sorry, you said you did have a breathalyzer hooked up to your vehicle for 6 months? Is that what?
Well, yes, sir. So what I was never on probation, but since I refused to blow, they state in Kentucky that's one of the basically until everything was straightened out, I had to have one in the vehicle. So I was compliant and had that for it was about 6 months until they had to straighten us out in the courts, and I had got the ruling of the reckless driving.
I thought that's what you said. I just want to make sure that.
yes, we were just making sure, because the rules are different in Indiana. Like, if you refuse, you automatically lose your license for a year. So we were just
Okay.
checking to see the difference between the states.
Yeah. Hopefully, I explained that well. If I didn't, I can try again.
Oh, no, thank you.
So Ian, you have not had to renew your Kentucky license for practice since this occurred?
No, I have. I've renewed my Kentucky license, and I've also obtained a license from the state of Tennessee since this.
Okay, because it says your Kentucky license is good till November of 26, correct?
Yeah, I just recently renewed my Kentucky license though. Well, maybe I'm misspeaking. I know for certain that I did get a Tennessee license here in the past 8 months when I moved home.
Do you know if Kentucky's on a 1-year or 2-year rotation for their
They're
licenses?
they're on a 2-year rotation. I do know that.
Here's partial here, I think. Yeah.
So did this come, Ian, did this come up when you renewed your Kentucky license to practice?
Yes, it did, and I had sent the information in to them. I didn't have to appear in front of them. I just sent the information in the letter that they had asked for beforehand, and that was sufficed for them.
So they renewed your license free and clear then to practice without any stipulations?
Yeah, that's correct.
So no probationary license or anything like that?
No, sir.
And that is the same as well as Tennessee too?
Yeah, I obtained a new license from Tennessee. Showed them about the misdemeanor reckless charge, and said they asked for a letter stating the events of the night and everything, and then I had sent them what I got charged for the reckless driving, and I have a good standing license with the state of Tennessee as well.
I know Tennessee's no joke. I do all kinds of stuff.
Personally, you know that?
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I lived in Fort Campbell, where my husband was in the Army. I had to do fingerprinting
I was
and
just gonna make a motion.
certified letter.
Right, the licensure.
Well, I think,
I'll second that.
okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to grant renewal of licensure. Any discussion on that before I call for the vote?
Is this a renewal?
It is.
All right.
It is. Okay, all in favor of renewal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Looks like you're all set, Ian.
I really appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for your time today and being understanding.
Well, thank you for your time getting with us, and good luck moving forward.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank y'all very much.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye.
Okay, does anybody need a break for any reason?
Yes.
Okay, we will take a 5-minute, 10-minute recess.
Hi, honey. How are you?
sold.
Okay, we are back, and our next order of business before us is a proposed settlement agreement for Terrence Kaiser, license number 24003340A, cause 2025 VB0007. Has everyone had an opportunity to read through the background on this proposed settlement? And is there discussion on this that we should have? Cause,
You did it, so.
I was involved in this, but I wasn't sure where it was going until I got the,
Yeah, there was a settlement conference, but I don't think that anything was agreed upon at that time.
at the conclusion of the conference, we had come to any definitive agreement, but evidently since then, the Attorney General and the veterinarian's attorney have worked this out. And it does, in my opinion, it does meet what I was hoping for. I wasn't sure Dr. was going to agree to.
and he's, I'm assuming 78? Does that sound about right? He was a 71 grad. I was a 79 grad. That's 8 years onto my 71, but he probably got in after 2 years instead of 3, so he's a year younger
You did that back.
from that
I
standpoint.
was 70 and I'm 75.
So anyway, the point is, he's 78, 79, 77, something in that range. And I know that shouldn't dictate everything, but
Well, the details of the case, you guys basically have the summary.
right.
I had a little more information to go on it.
Did you see images like
Yes.
x-rays and that sort of thing?
So
And this was an elbow fracture? Okay.
So I don't know how much more I'm allowed to say, but at any rate, having reviewed the case with probably more details than what you guys have available.
He reviewed it as the liaison prior to.
Yeah.
Sure.
I reviewed it as a liaison, and then we had a virtual meeting with Terry and his attorney, and Ricky and myself, and attorney from the OAG's office, but at the conclusion of that virtual meeting, nothing had been decided. So what's in this settlement agreement, I think, meets the concerns that I have.
Well, my biggest thing is when I was 5 years out of veterinary college, there weren't specialists to speak of. And so you opened a book and you basically fixed everything that came before you, whatever it was, whether it was a PDA or whether it was an orthopedic procedure like this. And frankly, that's just not standard of care anymore. And so just don't do any kind of major orthopedic repair at this point. And so with this agreement, he can still do that, but somebody has to stand over his shoulder. Is that the situation?
What I'm reading, and then what I was going to bring up, agrees to cease performing orthopedic surgeries for complex injuries, including but not limited to fracture repair, total hip knee replacements, and ligament tears. And then where advanced imaging diagnostic techniques such as MRI or CT scans are recommended or necessary, except under direct
Right.
supervision of a board certified orthopedic surgeon. So that I would think would limit, but the cease performing orthopedic surgeries is kind of a very vague. It gives some examples, but I don't know.
Is there
Well,
something
and-
else you would like to see?
It leaves gray area again for, well, is this considered?
And can he have a orthopedist telemedicine
No.
on a
Direct.
screen?
Direct is, so I
Oh, okay.
practice as direct situation.
Well, if,
Who's gonna do that? TBD.
if he's,
See, I was, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
Teleconsulting can be done.
I was quite surprised when I saw the settlement agreement, because during the meeting, he was pretty adamant that he felt like capable of continuing to do all kinds of orthopedic surgery, and that what had happened here was not all that bad. But it's not just the repair of the fracture, there were aftercare issues.
Correct.
where did this take place? Is this a rural practice or something?
Ocean.
It's in Goshen.
In Goshen?
Should he be doing any surgeries?
If he's,
That's my
if
take on
if the
it.
settlement
Yes,
says he
surgeries.
has to have an orthopedist watching over him, why have to refer the
I
day?
still do.
Well,
I think that's what they were trying to make
So
happen.
here,
you know?
here's my, this goes back to what Dr. Rodenbach was saying. What I was led to conclude was that these clients were told by their regular veterinarian to go to Michigan State, which isn't that far from where they're closer to Michigan State than we're toss-up. And because of expenses and travel, they declined. So they wind up, by word of mouth, finding out about Terry. And he tells them, well, yeah, this is a pretty serious fracture, but I can do this. And the fracture repair was very poorly done. The aftercare was not proper, and the records were not there.
Speaking from my job previous to Purdue was in Arkansas, and I worked for a surgical department supervisor for the state's only boarded surgeon. And if there was a way, like, we could stop this in states, because we would have to repair so many mistakes. And then, because of the cost frequency, if they would have done it appropriately, had that standard of care, they have to we have to fix it anyway. And then it costs more because of the adhesions and things like that. And so I think if we set a precedent in having that language that is there, that it would create more safety for pets and our consumers, and also show that standard of care that Indiana wants to have.
There is a precedence. We're going back to my ancient history. We did this with a doctor who's since deceased from Warsaw, was 76 years old, did a terrible job of a fracture repair. Brad Kuhlman from Knives was an expert witness, and we wound up with that veterinarian prohibiting him from orthopedic surgery. He fought us tooth and nail, but we got that done. He agreed to cease doing more. So there is precedence for this.
Well, it's like Jerry said,
There's a case I
when
can
we,
tell you. the
when we
veterinarian's name if
graduated
you
back
want.
in the early 70s, there was no referral, There was nothing except Purdue, and you call Purdue and they say, well, we're seeing new patients in 3 weeks. I learned early on, well, the client is on the way up there now, deal with it. Sorry. But the standard of care now is nothing like this. I'm lucky that I practiced here in town, and we had, at that time, 1 boarded. But now there's like 5 or 6,
Well, this case with the doctor in Warsaw, I can tell you his name if you were interested, but basically he agreed to no longer do orthopedic surgery. There's a precedence for that by this board, because he was given the option to go to Michigan State or Purdue or Ohio State for advanced training in orthopedic surgery, which he declined to do. So we put his license on probation, and to come off probation, he had to stipulate he would do no orthopedic surgery. So to answer your question, actually, there is actual case precedence by this board for this exact situation.
So the way it's written, agrees to cease performing orthopedic surgeries for complex injuries. So what would be, and then it says fractures. So what would be a non-complex orthopedic surgery that he could still perform without having a board certified orthopedic surgeon directly supervising? What does that leave?
You know, the bottom line is he could interpret this. that
Exactly.
If you have a cat with a straight spiral fracture of the femur that's gonna require a single pin and 2 wires, the way this is written, theoretically, he could do that.
That's what worries me, is that there's great.
But I don't think you could specify each individual orthopedic surgery. So I think your point, what we did with the doctor in Warsaw, we said, no more orthopedic surgery, period.
Which is what we ought to do.
I think that's all about it.
And my note to that is orthopedic the limit? Because if this is the behavior here, how many times have we seen cases come up with ligated things that should have been ligated, or bleeding that wasn't seen, or
Removing a
it
prostate.
was all okay 20 years ago to do this? I would vote that we just don't do, he just doesn't do surgery.
He should what?
He just does not do surgeries. And if he is at that age,
It has to be.
then, I mean, not to be judgmental, but is that
Okay, I'll
smart?
quit soon.
But that's somewhat,
But you didn't do this. They're judgmental.
Can you do it, cat? You can't.
yeah, that's somewhat discriminatory in the sense that you're looking at age. That,
Okay.
Well,
granted, we all
To
know,
his
you know,
behavior with these.
I'd be thrilled just to say orthopedic blank, just stop and not have any exceptions to it.
when we had this virtual meeting, I didn't think he would agree to anything like this. He was adamant that he could continue to do orthopedic surgery. And I said, well, that's a decision the whole board's gonna have to make, because I don't think it's gonna fly.
So are you thinking this is adequate and you're pleased with this?
I'm pleased with the restriction on orthopedic surgery, but Steve brought up an excellent point. You cannot put every single possible orthopedic surgery in a list.
Yeah.
I think the bottom line is, Dr. Sunbury's correct. We probably should lean towards orthopedic surgery, period.
Period.
I agree with
That's
that.
what I was trying to say as well. Did you go into any detail on the other procedure that was listed but not?
Yeah, that whole
into?
thing was, was kind of strange because the dog wound up, if I remember right,
Blind.
becoming blind, and I couldn't see where it had anything to do with anything that was done related to the surgery. Now, the surgery itself, to Kelly's point, was a soft tissue surgery that didn't go well either as far as the wound healed. The wound didn't heal with us.
Do you think that was because they let the dog lick it, or do you think it was,
What is the client compliance?
and that's where your
Right.
records come in?
So, but the surgery itself that he performed, other than a poor wound healing.
So
Sounds
then,
like retinal
So,
detachment.
Yeah.
Stop looking at the wound.
Stacy, did you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah, just for clarification, because initially we had in there, no more orthopedic surgery, period. And I just had a lot of questions from him of like, what does surgery mean? And so I had trouble crafting the language as not a veterinarian. So I guess some information that I can either relay back or put in the order or put in a PSA that might get accepted by the board would be helpful.
So before we got to the just orthopedic period, when I was looking, I was thinking, it said orthopedic surgery is not limited to fracture repair. I thought, what about a fracture that he's going to splint or cast or something else, or maybe he's going to start trying to splint or cast things because, well, that's not surgery. And that had my mind spinning. And if we say no orthopedic surgeries, what's it? Yeah. But I would think orthopedic, bone-related, bone joint, that is a little easier to define than.
Why don't we say procedures?
So you guys
Instead of
wouldn't even be
surgeries.
okay with a close reduction?
Well,
I'm
you got
just-
bandage care that didn't
that
go
didn't
well in this
go well, that-
situation.
Or it's like, hey, this one needs to be pinned, wired, whatever, but hey, I can't do that.
They won't let me do that.
They won't let me
so
do
we're
that,
gonna
so I'll just
Yeah.
throw this on and not look at it for 3 weeks and.
Well, that's the other half of it. We don't have the follow-up. What was the client told? You know, I mean,
You had that.
if you
But
do, if
this-
you do the,
That dog had pressure sores in a couple locations because
Yeah.
the splint was too tight. I mean, would be my assumption, because you take it off and there's big sores on the sides where the condyles are pressing against the splint or cast or whatever was there. And you can end up with as much damage due to splinting and casting as what you were trying to fix. So,
So your terminology about orthopedic procedures would fit that
I think so.
rather than orthopedic surgery. Because you can do just as much damage with an improperly applied cast as you can. with
Yeah.
What
surgery.
about
See-
temporary mobilization?
I remember we had that one attorney who, found all the gray areas in our definition of surgery in the state. A couple meetings ago.
Because there isn't one.
Huh?
There isn't one. There's no definition of surgery.
Oh, yeah. See,
But
Yeah.
so it could be interpreted.
Well, I like
the
the
trend.
but I also, we don't have any information as if they're going to, this is the rules, well, Goshen is not rule, but it is rule. And if you have to go, 50 miles to find a vet or follow up or do anything like that,
there's all kinds of specialty clinics in Elkhart, South Bend area that's like,
That's not a rationale anymore for not wanting, necessitating standard of care.
but
well,
originally,
that's one of, okay.
the way I understood it originally, the regular veterinarian really wanted these folks to go to Michigan State. They didn't want to drive the hour and a half to Lansing, and they didn't want to pay the big bucks. And they were told by Terry that he told them he could fix this.
I've had exactly the same thing happen where another veterinarian had referred it to me to do, because I did quote a lot of orthopedics. And you just have to look at it, and I sent him on and said, I appreciate you coming to see me, but, and I looked at the films, basically sent him back out the door, said, you need to get to a boarded orthopedist, and that's what needs to happen anymore.
And I worked on the AHA referral guidelines. There's with all these amazing veterinarians, so we can use that too. Here's your official guidelines.
Well, all right, so what are we gonna do?
I'm pretty impressed that the Attorney General got orthopedics in there to begin with, because during the settlement conference, he was adamant he could continue to do orthopedic surgery. And when I suggested that he should cease and desist, he wasn't gonna, when we ended that conference, I wasn't sure anything he was gonna have. I expected to see him before the whole board.
You still might.
I was gonna say,
You
if-
still
I
might.
have a question
Yeah.
as well. Is the no orthopedic surgery or procedures, it is a condition of probation, so it would be limited to that period of time that he's on probation, correct?
But isn't, oh, I said,
But when he came off of probation, I would go there.
well, the one thing, and I was gonna bring this up afterwards, in general speaking, when we talk about probation and whatnot, and we always bring up, so you can come back, blah, 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 and get off, and I'm always like, but that's the first time they can ask to be let off. I think we need to watch what we say, but so indefinite probation, respondent may not petition for withdrawal until 1 year. Doesn't mean we have to let them off after 1 year.
No.
And so if we want to continue that, when it says indefinite, then we can. I think we gotta be careful that we're not saying indefinite probation 1 year, so a year from now, you can come in and we'll let you off. I mean, we haven't said it quite that bluntly, but it could be expectations,
would-
yes. We need to watch.
Would like the other case that Dr. Clinton was talking about, would it be maybe not a term and condition, but a different like bullet point? No orthopedic surgeries or procedures unless you went to one of those courses.
When I think of someone like Roy Coolman, that in his mid-70s, as talented a surgeon as he was, said, I just don't have the hand coordination anymore to really properly do this. And he was awesome. I mean, he wasn't board certified, but he was awesome. And you just sadly, you have to acknowledge some of that stuff.
But the other thing here is,
around it.
even his
So-
soft tissue handling is not good.
Yeah, but it can be debated, you know, the dog gets sent home with an e-collar, do they take it off? And do the
This is
dog-
what I said about the fall.
He got the testicles out without removing the prostate. That was an accomplishment based on prior cases that we've had. I mean, the bottom line is the guy successfully did a bilateral abdominal cryptorchid. It's just the incision didn't heal. What was egregious is the orthopedic surgery and the records were vintage, graduated in 1976 records. Orthopedic surgery said 2 pins and a computer code. That's it. You know, and the alignment was,
This is what I'm bringing up, all that, you know. I'm not-
so we got the record part and the fact that he agreed with some restrictions on orthopedics. I'm impressed that the Attorney General's office got that done after the meeting that we had. I wasn't sure that was gonna happen.
Then you also have on here some that quarterly reports related to
Right.
sampling of the records.
We're gonna have to go back through that deal where the guy comes with
Say that.
10 files.
Benny Moore? Is that who that was?
Down in Salem. someplace like that.
There was another veterinarian from the Lafayette area years ago. We had the same.
But do you get to the order, the investigator get to choose which to
I
file?
picked, you
this?
picked,
Okay.
I picked a date in January and a date in February, not knowing what was on the book.
Okay, that's what I was.
And he had to just send from that date.
When I first
The dates were
started,
picked after the fact, so he couldn't make sure he was.
when I first started, the veterinarian and his assistant came with all the charts. And we handed them around the table.
Well, you can email them to me.
Yeah, well,
So-
but I'm just telling you what happened.
Did they come by horse and buggy?
Or facts. We can accept.
Facsimile.
Well, think of it this way.
But I mean, the board at that time, you know, I was just new to the board, and I was like, what is this? Anyway.
Well,
so
we have
did
to resolve
Yes,
this.
thank you.
So I'm happy with the orthopedic surgeries or procedures. Maybe put both of those words in there. Perfect world would eliminate the being overseen by some boarded person. That just sounds difficult and complicated.
Yeah, the likelihood
Absolutely.
of one of the veterinarians from Animal Care North in Elkhart, that's a surgeon specialist, going down to Goshen to help him do an orthopedic surgery, the likelihood of that happening.
So we can leave it in because it's just, he won't be able to do it,
I
or
mean,
do we
that's
take it
why.
out?
Could go either way on that.
I think Steve's point was excellent. I would just put orthopedics procedures, period.
Period.
And eliminate the boarded, well, that's where we started, so.
So are you gonna accept it as written or reject it?
So do we need a motion for that? I move we reject the conditions as presented.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of that
Do you want
motion?
to hear from the Attorney General first before?
Sure.
Well, we typically don't have them present anything anymore.
Okay,
That's-
just thought,
We stopped doing that a year ago, I think.
I just thought she might have.
She's probably gonna say, are you you kidding? We were so lucky to get what we got.
Right.
Now you're messing
I'm
with
fine with him coming, I don't care. That's on him.
I just thought in fairness before we.
And maybe by getting turned down, he'll get the message that, oh, am I really gonna convince them to change their mind if I appear before you? So maybe I will accept.
And my only question is this, I won't necessarily put this in the agreement because I hear you just with the language that you guys have said, but for procedures, he's definitely gonna ask me, what do you mean? And so I just want to be able to give him like some thoughts from the board on like exactly what you're trying to get at by putting that in there. So if you can just give me like a little bit, that would help.
Well, but then there was also talk about soft tissue orthopedics, like an ACL repair. I mean, are those?
That's still orthopedic.
Yeah, that's still
on the
orthopedic.
list.
Bone joints. I think that falls into that.
No orthopedic care treatment period.
Now, let's think this through. Dog has arthritis. Can I not prescribe something for that? Mainly,
I think the word procedure is just, you hit the nail.
Yeah, that'd be medical management, maybe.
which is okay.
Yeah, and either, the order could either say allow for medical management or it could produce a non-exhaustive list of the intent and where you're going with what you mean by an orthopedic procedure. It doesn't have to be inclusive by any means, but it might get him a better understanding of the kind of the, where you're at and what you're thinking.
And somebody, I forget who started to bring up earlier, what about a temporary, terrible fracture? What about a temporary splint to protect it until it gets to?
Right.
I think that,
And you could
I don't know how you word that, but
you
that would
could
be
word
okay.
that excluding temporary,
Or emergent care.
temporary managing.
Under 48 hours?
Yeah, I'd put that, but you gotta have timeline in there, because that's what part of the problem
And then
is,
it that way.
put it on too tight and wait, boy, that's temporary.
Right.
Yeah, well,
Then we have to wait until something happens again.
I mean, the bottom line is, he's certainly capable of putting a Robert Jones bandage on a dog that gets hit by a car 4 miles down the road on Highway 15 in Goshen. He should be able to. You don't want to get crazy. But I think
And that's the kind of
procedures
standard
pretty,
that we-
orthopedic procedures pretty self-explanatory.
And it's pretty encompassing. Let's go there and be happy with that.
we're not gonna worry about it, soft tissue, any of that.
Well, that disallows ACLs,
The
MPLs,
the contorted surgery itself, it's just the incision and needle. Was that under compliance, but we don't have any evidence that he closed the incision properly that I can remember. And the dog going blind 3 weeks later, it's hard for me to relate that to the surgery. But his records were so horrific, there was no examination of the dog's neurologic status. So it did go blind.
Do we even say anything about the bad health records?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, we're only working on the first
So
one.
we will reject all that, we gotta put it in.
Well,
We're just changing that one paragraph.
He's doing the record keeping for the sure for that.
Okay.
And then he has to,
And then he has to bring us charts for a period of time.
All right, okay.
Okay, who wants to repeat the motion?
We don't need to repeat it.
We don't?
That was just a question by the AG's office for clarification.
Yeah.
Then we
You already
have the
voted.
vote before us?
We just have to vote to reject this as.
You already did.
I seconded.
Did we
We
vote?
didn't.
No, after the
Was
second, we went to
Was
discussion.
the
Yeah.
motion
Before
was
the actual
made
vote.
and second
I
voted.
have it as.
And then before I could say anything, you said, whoa, don't we want the AG's opinion on this?
I did
And then we,
We said,
okay,
that.
well,
We
I
didn't
have it,
actually vote.
because I actually have it down as a 6-0-0 vote because
Well,
now
it
it's
may be,
done.
hang on.
It will be in the.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay,
now
You-
it's in.
you
you were proactive. That's all good.
Okay,
be, do they go back and come back with another, is that what's gonna happen? Okay.
Yeah, it'll depend on if
Did we
he will
help
agree
you?
to that, or
No.
otherwise he'll appear at your next meeting.
We help you enough with what we,
Yes, yeah, thank you.
that's what I was at when I said. But because she's gotta write this up again.
Fair enough. I think we're ready for your report.
You should probably follow her report so she can.
We're ready for the.
Okay. So just a quick overview is the average age of investigative file is at 10.8 months. We're trying to get that down to 9. That's kind of what our goal is across all boards. The reason that's so high is we have some lingering ones from we have 2 from 2023 or 4 that are just, we got counsel on them late, so we're kind of waiting on the parties to get that moving. I'm hoping that'll average out our numbers once we get those taken care of. Right now we have 56 investigative files open. Over the last month, we have closed 12. 9 have been closed without any litigation, just closed them straight up. And then we have 3 that were opened for potential litigation. And then our average age of file, once it's in litigation, is 6 months, 6.5 months. And we've got 20 litigation files open right now. And then a majority of the investigative files that we're seeing, vast majority, is malpractice. So, malpractice, standard of care issue.
Is that basically what we're just looking at with regard to people trying to do things they probably shouldn't have, or just simple procedures that were really mucked up, or what would you say? Combination?
A
of all that?
combination, yeah. Basically, just anything gone wrong with a surgery or even diagnosis. So they're all a little bit different, but kind of the same type of things we've been bringing. Not too much in unlicensed practice, but we do have a couple of things, and then just some bigger cases pending. That is one of the reasons you haven't seen anything from us. It'll probably pick up. So
There's a couple of doozies coming up.
Awesome.
When I say doozies, I mean challenging.
Malpractice, sex.
Okay.
But quite honestly, I've done about 3 or 4 recently where they sought my input, and on the plus side, veterinarian did everything. So,
Does that complete your report?
yes,
Thank you so much.
thank
but
you.
on the downside, I
Appreciate
did
it.
a few cases that I went, oh. One of which is a failed settlement. And this was a failed settlement.
No, we're not talking about the DCPR.
I
Nothing to do with this document.
All right. Fair enough. Okay, under discussion, rulemaking, and I will hand that over to you.
Okay, so you all have this in your packet. It would be in addition to Rule 5, which is what we discussed at length the last special meeting in November. This is just the telehealth piece of it. It does not include any definitions of the DCPR or any requirements related to establishing the DCPR. So we will not be talking about that today. The definitions in paragraph A, 1 through 10, were all taken from the AVMA telehealth guidance. except paragraph 6. The telehealth has the meaning set forth in the Indiana Code on telemedicine, which is just a general, telehealth encompasses all of these types of teletriage, teleadvice, telemedicine, e-prescribing, teleeducation, and telemonitoring. Does anybody have any questions with regard to the definitions?
I know this is all this language is geared towards veterinarians. Is there any instance where a veterinary technician could be sanctioned for some kind of telehealth services? Like if they're guided by their DVM to like, hey, tell this client XYZ that they should take this, this, and this. But like if the doctor's telling them what to tell people, like could they get in any kind of trouble by?
We talked about that last meeting, sorry, the rule or the statute on telemedicine. That's not part of this rule. As it stands, only veterinarians can actually provide telemedicine, not an RVT or an assistant. But there are parameters within that statute that you can have your assistant do certain things, just like in-person care, like these days.
I just want to make sure there's no hindrance or restriction towards veterinary technicians. Since we're such a symbiotic state.
I mean, RVTs do tele-advice all the time.
Oh, yeah, that's true,
Right?
yeah. So I just don't want them to be like reprimanded for giving tele-advice to someone if, on the recommendation or orders of their doctor, and then they could get, the wording could get them caught up in
That's
a
where,
board complaint.
that's where in the record it would say, per so-and-so's orders or recommendations, notify the owner, blah, blah, blah. Do you agree? Because as long as it's under the supervision of, under the direction of, with the doctor attached to it.
And what do we do with this today?
Do you have any questions, concerns about A1 to 10? We're just talking about today.
This is just to get the language in front of you. You've not seen this language before, and so what we've been doing is moving through each section by section, to put potential new language in front of you to have a discussion with the thought processes. We'll then combine that into proposed rulemaking and work that through the entire system, but we want it to come through the board as a discussion item first to make sure we're hitting the needs and where you want it to go, since it's a pretty comprehensive review of this. So that's why, as Brady said, this is specifically on telehealth. We are not to the BCPR piece yet, and we're working through section by section as we are kind of coming to that, and don't want to try to address BCPR in the context of telehealth at the same time, because we find that it gets pretty blurry pretty quickly, and we want to have that as a separate conversation intentionally.
Did we create the verbiage and the definitions, or are those from somewhere else, or a combination?
So paragraph 6, like I said, has the meaning set forth in Indiana statute. And then we maybe tweaked very minor definitions, but they're almost all verbatim for the AVMA's definitions.
Most of these look like they're the same as in the Model Practice Act for the AVMA.
Question, number 9, telesupervision. You're gonna do it. Do it. Where I'm going is earlier when we were talking about direct supervision, and we were talking about it being right in front, and you alluded to the fact that direct supervision could be tele.
It could be. There's no rule on it currently.
Okay.
So that would be something that the board would have to discuss, but telesupervision could be a level of supervision. And the board would then discuss what level of supervision telesupervision counts as. Right?
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
yeah, so we had the previous discussion last meeting about the supervision levels for non-veterinarians. There's the definition. We want to define telesupervision, that it's a thing. And if the board chooses, can go down the path of saying, when performing telesupervision, this is just the definitions, so this would be more substantiated below. When performing telesupervision, it means you are providing indirect supervision to a non-veterinarian, or it can mean you are performing direct supervision of a non-veterinarian, or it could mean you are performing immediate supervision of a non-veterinarian. That is up to the board to decide.
That was nice. But I had, in Arkansas, we could work under indirect supervision, and my surgeon, you know, he was the state's only one, so we had to protect him at all costs during COVID. And I don't think he saw people for at least a year physically. So, and there would be times where I was coming in and I down dogs and he'd already done surgery on all of them, but like their rechecks and things like that, like I would send the videos to him, and you know, like this is all the follow-up tests and things like that. And so is that like teleservice,
It's like
telemonitoring?
Yeah. And to clarify, by default, it would not have to be defined as indirect supervision because it is indirect supervision at its bare minimum, right? That is the assumption that a veterinarian's not on the premises and they are actively working on a case or supervising. They don't have to be on the premises anyways, but this would actually be kind of, I could see it somewhere between indirect and potentially direct, because they have audio-visual supervision of actually what's occurring, which they wouldn't have in the traditional sense of indirect supervision, right? So that is why we wanted to at least get it defined as audio and visual, because it is more than indirect.
And
There
it
is
can
not-
be.
Yeah.
It can also be text messaging and email, which
Right.
falls right into our indirect supervision.
And I would also want to make sure, like, once we go to that level and deciding those things, that registered veterinary technicians were in a different bracket than veterinary assistants and the different supervision requirements.
Well, and that was what we discussed the last meeting, where we have charted that out, where they are at different levels and how that then applies, because there's a base for both of them. And what the board is looking at is potentially prohibiting some tasks from being even able to be delegated down to the veterinary assistant, which then kind of, strengthens the veterinary technician's role in that space, but then also clarifying when, from the board's perspective, when the board believes that an RVT can do it under indirect supervision very clearly. So that was, at the last meeting, they
I'll
tried,
read the notes.
yeah, they tried to clarify that specifically, and that's our goal, right? Because we want RVTs to feel comfortable when they're operating indirectly under a veterinarian, to know in specifically which tasks that occurs.
Yeah, I just feel my inbox will be full if I don't keep up for.
Well, we went down that laundry list
Yeah.
at the last meeting, and there was a group of RVTs here providing us with information and guidance and suggestions.
It's really helpful.
Questions.
It was a
There
good
were
session.
3 or 4 of your colleagues were here,
Oh.
maybe 5.
I was gonna say
Well, there were like 6 or 7.
seven,
Okay.
Good policy.
There were 3 that were pretty vocal.
Yeah.
Really told us what they want. And I don't know their names, you might,
No, off the top of my head.
Awesome.
but I believe at least 1 or 2 were Purdue.
They
At least
were
Purdue-
academic.
At least Purdue trained,
They were
potentially
in academia or something.
potentially employed by Purdue. I don't remember exactly who, their names.
Is there a video of that? Can I watch the video?
It should be online.
I'll record it.
So again, with these definitions, any other commentary on them?
I think your definitions are excellent as written.
Thank you. We'll let the AVMA know. Thank you. Okay, so paragraph B, licensed veterinarians may provide telehealth services in accordance with Indiana code, and licensed veterinarians may issue prescriptions in accordance with Indiana code that we talked about at length last time too. D, for purposes of Indiana code 25.1 9.515, which is part of that telehealth telemedicine statute that says if a veterinarian is required to have a VCPR, then they have to establish the VCPR pursuant to the Practice Act. So for purposes of the telehealth statute, a VCPR is not required when a diagnosis is not rendered by a licensed veterinarian providing the following services: tele-advice, teleconsulting, which would be only the consulting veterinarian. The primary care veterinarian would still need a VCPR. And teletriage, telemonitoring, and teleeducation.
Excellent.
I have just with the wording of teleconsulting, consulting veterinarian only, with this, are there open, trying to think of the wording when we did that referral guidelines, when we did use consulting. But like, what about veterinary technician specialists that they're in their field are like, you know, VTS in behavior or things like that? If somebody's consulting with them, but it's still under a veterinarian, so I think technically that wording is right. I just didn't want it, the verbiage to get in trouble.
The behaviorist would be the one that the vet is consulting to, right? That's what you're saying? Like
Well, there's
saying
veterinary
that, you know,
technician specialists in different things, but there's still, at different states, they're either practicing under an active BPM or in, like in this state, I don't have to sign that I'm under a BPM, but in other states you do. But I just wanted to make sure, like, if there's a VTS that works at a practice, a specialty practice, and it's behavior oriented, you know, could that teleconsultation, if it's just for the behavior issue, what they're qualified to do, you know, would that be the veterinarian only?
But under the definition of teleconsulting, if they're consulting with a qualified expert to gain that insider advice, that expert does not mean it has to be a veterinarian. It could be an RVT.
Okay.
And regardless, what we're trying to address down in D is that only the initiator of the consult has to have the VCPR, not the person providing advice back. Does not have to have VCPR. Because at the end of the day, they're providing advice, and it's the primary care veterinarian's job to take a comprehensive review of the case as a whole and provide that to the patient in which they have a VCPR.
Okay. So then E, a VCPR is not required for the following, or is required for the following: telemedicine, e-prescribing, e-VFD, and telesupervision.
Yeah, that's just why I was confused with veterinarians only when it says.
No,
other-
it means consulting veterinarian. So like if I was a primary.
Oh, I see.
And I'm
It says
calling
consulting
you
veterinarian.
for help, I have to have a VCPR, you don't. Because
Oh, yes, yes, I can see what you're saying.
You would be considered a qualified expert in that case.
Yeah,
I saw
and
you
the
out.
referral guidelines, we had to do a whole like, when does the VCPR transfer and when does this, yes, I get it, I see what you're
And
saying.
we were trying to write the list as an inclusive list, not an exclusionary list, which means we had to say who was included in. The other thing we wanted to clarify in both D specifically is that we are tying that whole piece to a diagnosis not being rendered. Just to fully clarify that for teleadvice, teleconsulting, teletriage, telemonitoring, and teleeducation, diagnosing is not occurring during that in that space. We could have alternatively actually written into the definition that diagnosing does not occur by definition, but we thought that was more substantive and wanted to then tie it within that VCPR conversation. That's when most folks have that in their mind of when's diagnosing occurring. So we wanted to tie those together to say, basically, because you're not diagnosing, a VCPR is also not required.
Moving on.
Yeah, I think we'll have to be really clear and, 'cause I think technicians, just like I had questions, they will have questions about the same questions. I don't think every technician understands the consulting, referring veterinary, consulting veterinary, does different pathways. So I just think we'll have to be really clear.
But I think once we have the information updated,
Sure,
like, it's easier to put educational materials together
Absolutely.
around what that looks like to get frequently asked questions and that kind of stuff. Once we have kind of more guardrails in this space.
Because that's traditionally, VCPR has been something we don't deal with. So I can see how it could be confusing to them.
Is that for the legislative update?
I would love to do the legislative update.
That'd be wonderful. Would you please do the legislative update?
I would. If you'll recall, I sent you an email a few months ago with a couple of bills that had been introduced. At this time, Senate Bill 56 on the veterinary licensing reciprocity being more in line with, or changing the Practice Act to be more in line or reference that reciprocity for healthcare professionals that's just in Title 25. That has passed out of the Senate and has moved into the House, and that will likely get passed. We don't see any reason it wouldn't. House Bill 1014 on sonography, which would make it a crime for providers who are not doctors, nurse practitioners, PAs, I think midwives, to perform sonography. Hasn't been given a hearing in the House, and it likely won't, given I think today is the last day that they can hear anything anyway. Yeah. So that'll likely be dead as of next week. The House Bill 1024, the Veterinary Student Loan Repayment Program, moved out of the Agriculture and Rural Development Committee. It passed out of that committee and was reassigned to Ways and Means. And as of today, there's no change on that one. So that one will also likely be dead, at least this year. House Bill 1061 on veterinary health, that would require the in-person physical examination to establish a VCPR, was not given a hearing in committee, and it won't.
Anyone ever hear where it came from? Yeah.
Where it came from?
Nobody knows. Nobody seems to know where that originated.
Do bills originate from out of state? Oh, I'm just curious person who asks.
And House Bill 1220 was more recently introduced. It was a prohibition on declawing cats, and it has not been given a hearing. And that's it for anything that directly relates to veterinarians.
So the sonography thing, did you say that's essentially dead as well?
They've all been indicated as inactive and.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
No?
So they are all inactive.
Because I know the IVMA, for those of us that are on the legislative committee, Lisa wanted our input. And potentially, if it got further down the line, we were going to try and get an exclusion for veterinarians.
We had the feeling it likely wasn't intentional. But yes, we were monitoring
There
closely
are
with
several
IVMA.
professions that use
Yeah.
sonography that weren't listed, so.
Got the large animal guys want to be able to do their pregnancy ultrasound.
Dentists want to be able to use.
Oh, yeah.
And it's bizarre that they consider ultrasound great.
So the only one that we should look at now is the veterinary licensing one, right?
I mean, that's the only one that's still
That's still
active.
active. Okay.
And I actually testified before the Senate committee.
How'd that go?
Great.
Good for you.
Quoted in IPJ,
In what?
What?
Indiana.
Business Journal.
I thought you said I quoted an amputee. I heard.
Did you get a lot of questions?
No. Like veterinarian stuff, what is
The
that?
question was by the chairwoman, and she asked if it would bring more people to Indiana to practice veterinary medicine. And it would. Actually,
Are there veterinarians in the general assembly? There's only like 11
You told
across
her
the
it would.
country that I found.
I said it would, but I didn't.
Yeah.
It's been doing it for every year, so. It has increased.
Has it?
Oh, yeah.
Lisa just put up there. Put that up again, Lisa.
Oh, you can call her out.
She said that she's been contacted by local media about something.
Oh,
She just
did she
flashed
put it in
that.
the chat?
Well, I think the IVMA brought that bill to the Senate. And so I know they're lobbyist did testify as well. So maybe that's what she was talking about.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, that bill was introduced by IBMA mostly to comport with what the licensing board is already doing in 25-1-21, which is removing the 5-year requirement for licensure. Interestingly enough, I've been contacted by a couple newspaper, well, IDS in Bloomington and a local TV, the IU TV station in Bloomington, looking more globally at, is this going to bring more veterinarians to Indiana for the veterinary shortage? So I don't know where that came from, but we expect the bill to move along.
That was the same question that the senator asked me.
Yep. When the bill was heard in the Senate, every member of the Senate Ag Committee agreed to join on as a co-sponsor of the bill. So for some reason, this bill's generated a lot of goodwill, which we'll take.
Yeah.
It has 9 co-sponsors.
Are we done legislative?
I'm done with that part.
Do you want to flip with Dr. Shipman? Is it getting tight?
No, mine's gonna take like 2 seconds.
Okay,
Um,
time's up.
You said 2.
2 seconds.
As you can see, we've had several VT&E retake interviews. We've had 4 of those. We've had 1 settlement conference, and that was with Dr. Sunbury on a cease and desist that did not settle. Continuing education courses approved. I approved 1. It was one that you guys had already approved. It was that 8-hour, like I call it, just like the rapid spay neuter. It was just for a different location. And we actually have another one where they're gonna do it again pending out, you know, look at that one yet. And then there was one that Dr. Shipman looked at and approved, like course equine radiology or something like that. No?
Repro.
Oh, repro, yeah.
Ours.
We currently have 2,871 veterinarians and 2,158 RVTs. Both of those numbers are down from where we were at the end of the year, or well, beginning of the fall before the renewals started. We've lost about 250 veterinarians and about the same amount of RVTs. I don't know why. As far as DVMs go, I know that we had 80 renew after the expiration of the renewal period, and we've had 107 RVTs renew after the closure of that renewal period. I don't have it on here, but we did have one of the RVTs who was suspended for failing the audit. She was able to get all of her information and renewed on time, and I lifted that suspicion. So, but she's the only one. None of the other ones applied for renewal.
That's what I was gonna ask, is going back to the ones that had trouble with the audit, and some of them were sticking their heels in the sand, and did they ever?
Well, I don't know if they were, we just didn't hear from them. So maybe they were just intending on letting their license go anyway, and that's why they didn't. Deal with it. I
So
don't
what's the rule if they renew after the deadline? How do you handle that? Is they meet everything, they're okay, or do they get fined, or?
Well, when Rule 3 goes into effect after the governor signs it in a couple of months, then they will be fined. But until then, we can't issue fees, fines, or civil penalties.
So did they get renewed though?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They don't have to do any extra CE or anything. It's just a financial penalty of like $50 or something like that. And then I am attending the Board Directors Spring Summit in April. That should be the 22nd through the 24th in Kansas City.
Says it's intense.
Is there a way we can get that AABSB member board training for all our board, like, they offer that. Like, or when the governor decides if we're turning positions or something.
Well, any board member can go to the course.
Well, I think, but they offer it to, like, virtually to, like, do for your board. I just think it's very beneficial that. For, to me, I see it as weird when I go to the AABSB conference and there's directors or state veterinarians that are not official board voters during board member orientation and like what the board should be doing. And I think the member training would be good for the board. It's weird. It's weird. It's strange.
I mean, I can look into it.
I think also the reason why you likely see directors attending that board members basics is to understand what the content of that of that curriculum is to determine if it's worthwhile to continue pursuing participation in that. I think it is quite worthwhile in pursuing that in that curriculum because as part of multiple organizations, not every board training is created equal, and it is highly dependent on the instructor. And so I think that's likely why you see that participatory effort by the director in those situations, because they're evaluating on behalf of their board before kind of investing the time and effort into it.
I just think it's so new, like highly valuable, especially for like new board members and things like that. Like it's very valuable knowledge. Helps you with your job. So yes, thank you for looking at that.
And it's just fascinating to talk to the Canadians.
Yes, it is.
They do things a lot differently.
There's a lot of experience too.
Yeah.
Well, years ago when I went, I was amazed, Alaska, they meet monthly. Like, you gotta be kidding. But they have to do all of their own investigation and everything, where we don't
Most
have to
jurisdictions
that.
do.
Yeah, but still, I don't know how many veterinarians are in
We need to
Alaska.
be very grateful that the Attorney General is doing all this investigating, just presenting us with case materials and summaries for Steve and I to evaluate, because I don't think we would have to try and do our own investigations. We need a bigger board, that's for sure.
We do those on the animal health side, and it's a lot of work. We do those entirely. That's entirely our team. That
It'd be pretty hard to get volunteers to do that.
it took our team just shy of 5,000 staff hours last year on neglect cases alone. So, yeah. Just for perspective.
And they do a good job of summarizing cases when they send them to me. Once in a great while, I'll email them back, I need a little more information, or send me this or send me that, but it's minimal. Most of the time, I get everything I need from them when we first go around.
I know Dr. Shipman's on a tight rein, so let's let him provide his report to us.
Sure, appreciate it. Thank you. So this past quarter, the agency as a whole has spent a lot of time responding to highly pathogenic avian influenza. I know a lot of folks are probably sick of hearing about AI, us too. But since, so just for perspective, right, I said, 5,000 hours on neglect cases last year alone. For 2025, we spent just over 20,000 staff hours on highly pathogenic avian influenza across the state. So it's an incredible amount of work that our team is doing day in and day out. You all remember we had the incident last spring in East Central Indiana, predominantly in Jay County. That was 27 cases there, or in that kind of time frame. That resulted in the depopulation of just over 8 million birds. We are currently now experiencing our second incident in Indiana, kind of end of 2025, starting early October. We have 84 commercial cases, so a much more many more farms impacted by that. However, less birds, so they are a smaller farm, so about 1.1 million birds impacted by the virus. So the concern we always have is in Elkhart and LaGrange County, our density is quite significant. So we do have a lot of birds, a lot of poultry farms, and relatively close proximity, highly integrated, both in the professional sense with the companies, but also within the communities due to them being predominantly Amish, right? So, so there's some cultural, religious practices that keep the community pretty close and integrated, and so that's one thing that we've worked through. We've worked with the Unified Council of Bishops, right? So the Unified Council of Bishops in Elkhart and LaGrange County represents over 200 bishops, so church leaders in that space. Worked with them and Purdue Extension to get a prohibition on community gatherings on poultry sites. So wanted to work through that with them. They did agree. There was some hesitancy to do so because community gathering, weddings, funerals, church services is pretty core to their culture. And so they were able to put that prohibition in place at the top to represent all those over 200 church districts in Elkhart and LaGrange County, and that worked its way through. So from the time they implemented it, within an incubation period, we started seeing pretty significant decreases in case counts. We can't say ever that was the reason, but it's a pretty significant decrease in cases. So prior to that, we had over 60 of our 80 cases happened prior to that decision, and the remaining 20 happened after that decision. So in the time frame, it's pretty reasonable.
So you think that was more significant than wildlife migration?
Yeah, so what we were actually seeing is lateral move of the virus. So it was bouncing farm to farm. It wasn't coming back out of the air or from wild birds while it was moving. So we have the genetic sequencing on all but 2 of those cases to show that it was just moving farm to farm. Now, that's commonly blamed on humans, right? But we can never rule out airborne transmission as well. We know an influenza can have some transmission in that manner, so we can't ever rule that out. But yeah, the genomic sequencing shows it was just kind of bouncing around, pinballing from farm to farm in that community, which is incredibly tough, right? So you have to make meaningful stops in time to kind of get ahead of that virus. Basically, that community just got saturated with virus, right? And once it gets saturated with virus, it's not hard for it to move around in whatever manner it is. So yeah, we've had incredibly compliant companies to work with. I think 7, 8, 9 companies total we've worked with. It has impacted the broiler industry, but predominantly the duck industry and the organic egg layer industry up in northern Indiana. So that's just a piece that we continue to support. Our most recent detections were last week. We had 2 little blips on the map. We had made pretty substantial progress, I think, over nearly 20 days without a case. And unfortunately, what we're trying to sort through is these 2 cases we had last week were on farms that had already broke since October. So this is the second time they had high paths since October. And trying to determine what that means. So we do put the farms completely through environmental sampling. So we swab over 250 surfaces per barn and run that through PCR to determine if there's any virus present. If we do find virus, we take it out to NVSL, the National Veterinary Services Laboratory, for virus isolation. That's inoculating a chick embryo. If the chick embryo survives, then the virus was dead. If the chick embryo does not survive, then the virus was active. And then we would go through a virus elimination or cleaning and disinfection of that site. To date, all of our sites have either have not found any virus on them, or if we do find virus, all the virus is going to be inactive. So
the genetic testing you do, that all goes to
Purdue.
Iowa? Oh, they do it too.
Yeah, so Purdue does all the initial surveillance of those tests, and then every positive case has to be confirmed out at Iowa at the National Veterinary Services Laboratory, right, USDA's lab. So that's just to be compliant with the World Organization for Animal Health. They are a reference laboratory for that, and so they have to take that determination. But I think Purdue, the last number I saw, ran over 17,000 PCR tests related to this incident. So on the dairy side, our dairy farms continue to remain negative from high path avian influenza. We are continuing to do monthly bulk tank testing of those farms. We get about 50% of the bulk tank units per month. So we have some confidence in kind of having a general surveillance or understanding of the disease prevalence or lack thereof on these farms. The most recent detection in the country was in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and they actually found that on this monthly testing, but they actually believe it was a new introduction of the virus from wild birds. So it didn't, they've not have found any additional cases related to that, likely because it was a brand new introduction and not one that has more adapted to spend time in cattle. So like the B313, which is what we saw in Texas and California, where once that virus, that B313 is in there, it bounces around pretty quickly. So that's the most recent detection of that. And then last but not least, I'd be remiss to not talk about New World screwworm. That's on a lot of livestock producers' radar right now. Continue to have detections in Mexico of New World screwworm. That, as a reminder, that New World screwworm it's named after its ability to basically screw into living tissue, and that's predominantly how it's moved geographically, is in an open wound. Predominantly animals. Central America and Mexico has reported over 110,000 cases so far in livestock. The probably more concerning or equally concerning part is they're reporting over 700 human cases of New World screwworm, where this has impacted wounds on humans. So FDA is actively issuing conditional approvals of drugs for the treatment and prevention of New World screwworm in animals. I think they have 5 or 6 so far, either conditionally approved or emergency use authorization. That is, all things considered, relatively quick turnaround for FDA. It seems to be about a month a drug. They're able to get that through their system. So, the first one I believe was Doramectin, but they have it for cattle, dogs, and cats right now, and also looking to try to get additional species approved. Obviously, off-label use is permitted when there's not an on-label substitute, but also looking at withdrawal times, right? The border is still closed with Mexico for livestock movements, so that has put some pressure on the markets in the U.S., especially on beef prices, kind of facilitating them to drive higher because that supply has been discontinued, at least temporarily. The detections have been, as of recent, within about 200 miles of the Texas border. So that is definitely a concern. In animals that are relatively young, so you're generally seeing them in umbilical, I would say wounds, but just as the umbilicus is healing after birth. So like a 7-day-old calf is a pretty common report to see that occur in. So the U.S. is still pushing forward with the building of a sterile fly breeding facility in southern Texas. That facility is estimated to be able to produce 300 million flies a week. Once it's up and running, it still has a substantial way to go to get that operational. That costs the tune of about $750 million to get that facility built. They estimate the economic impact to the United States if New World screwworm was to enter the U.S. would be right around $100 billion to our livestock commodities. So they obviously have to look at the cost-benefit analysis of that and have determined that would be an appropriate step, which we agree is an additional tool in the toolbox. So a very quick update on Board of Animal Health things, and I can stay for just a few minutes if there's any questions before I have to head down.
Yeah, real quick, the vertical transmission of birds flying by versus horizontal. How did you assess that it was horizontal and not coming from birds flying by?
Yep, so the National Veterinary Services Laboratory does whole genomic sequencing of the virus once it's identified on a positive site. They then evaluate the SNP tables and how many changes in nucleotides occur at on each farm, and basically comparing fingerprints. So we get a whole chart and a whole phylogenetic tree. And generally speaking, we're seeing kind of what they call additional SNPs or additional changes in the virus between farms anywhere in that 2 to 4 individual SNPs to change. And that is pretty consistent with vertical, or not vertical, with horizontal or lateral movement. When we would be more likely to see not a completely different virus, but a virus that has significant change in its SNPs if it's coming from a wild bird, just due to timing of when that bird's moving over. Down to the level of, we have one farm that the SNPs there's 9 different SNPs between it, and then the lab went, there was likely an intermediate host for this farm. So there was something happened. They just don't typically see a 9 SNP gap when it's moving farm to farm. We have some suspicions of what actually happened on that farm. The birds have been sick for quite a while, and the longer that virus is in the birds, the more SNPs change, and we see a bigger increase in change. So we generally only see 2 to 4 because we have rapid depopulation of these birds. It kind of stops that virus from replicating further and making more changes or mutating more in the bird. So 2 to 4, 5, there's not a magical number in there, but the diagnosticians at NVSL give us a kind of their recommendation, and what they can actually use is in that fingerprinting, to some extent, this is an imperfect process, is they can say, this case led to this case, led to this case, led to this case. Based off of how that virus changes, there are some that are just more ancestral to others. It's hard, but we also tell producers, we will never know how it entered your farm. We won't, and you likely were successful in keeping the virus off your farm for a long time. But you did have an incursion, right? And we will never know how many times you were successful in keeping the virus off your farm, because we don't have a mechanism to measure that. We know when it enters poultry.
Have you had to do any depopulation during all this cold weather?
Our last week was our most recent, so they were able to get that. We're having issues with disposal right now. I'm getting the birds disposed of, but they were able to get them depopulated prior to that.
How did they? I know years ago they had problems. I think southern Indiana with some cold weather and it froze everything.
Correct.
So what did you do?
It depends on the species, right? So ducks predominantly depopulated via firefighting foam. It is the firefighting foam that does not have PFAS. That's a common question you get. And so that's very water intensive, right? Okay. For egg layers, it's predominantly CO2 carts. They'll put the birds in CO2 carts or cervical dislocation. And so those are the primary methods for depopulation that they use. So
it's a really kind way to say wring their necks.
It's an approved avian method.
So what's the disposal?
Yeah. So almost all of our farms in northern Indiana have actually taken their birds to landfill, which helps them on the timeline process get restock eligible sooner.
So they don't have to be incinerated.
They do not have to be incinerated. They have, USDA has a very specific landfilling protocol that they have to. They're not landfilled in the active phase. They're landfilled in the inactive portion of the landfill. They have to maintain at least a certain distance above any leachate collection of the landfill. So almost all landfills have leachate. They're lined and have leachate collection in which they pull the runoff through. That leachate actually generally runs through most municipal wastewater treatment facilities. And so the concern was, one, with we don't want it too close to the leachate collection because the virus, as it comes through, one, we don't want to have to challenge the municipal wastewater treatment facility with a potential large volume of virus. So the thought is that virus gets kind of lost in the landfill itself as it migrates through the landfill. The other challenge is a reasonable amount of disinfectant is used kind of in and around this process. And we didn't want the disinfectant to go through the landfill collected by the leachate and actually go to the wastewater treatment facility and impact their good microbiomes that they use to treat and clean their drinking water. So
you need to leave.
Okay.
Can I reach out to you and maybe we have just a conversation on if we could ever have legislation for loan repayment program for veterinary technicians? Like I could reach out to you. It's just a conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, because I know you have to go.
Yeah, the one that worked its way kind of, it didn't make it all the way out of committee, but kind of bounced between committees, included veterinary technician.
Okay,
Yeah, so it's definitely on folks' radar.
awesome, because I just want to make sure. I was like, so I don't ever see I don't even know of one off the top of my
Yes,
head.
that we agree. There's not a lot that
Yeah.
include RBTs, and we wanted to make sure that that was the case.
So Kyle, when they
Thank
use Doramectin for screwworm, that's not a preventative, that's a treatment of an
It can be either. It can be either. That's, and so what they're seeing is like the typical ivermectin products are less effective. But once you get into kind of the process like Doramectin and those, they are more effective, but they have a pretty substantial withdrawal.
So how are the humans being treated?
I honestly don't know. I don't know.
He's got enough to do.
Just don't care.
Man,
No, I do care. I just want the human thing. The human thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Brittany, this is why we need 1 hour of CE credit for that.
Yeah,
For the 7 minutes that he talked.
you got it, Toyota.
Got it,
Seriously.
seriously.
I mean, I don't think that is a 59-minute,
I mean, all the.
like the other
Well, let's say
courses.
the meeting in general is very informative and educational to the board.
Yeah, I hang on every word Paul says.
Think about it though, just food for thought.
Okay, well, you guys just voted on the CE
Right.
rule that didn't include that. So
So much of a.
I personally don't have time to issue certificates for 5 of you. We get CE from Crossroads next week.
I'll type it up.
I don't have
All
any
right.
mechanism to manage it. It feels like that.
But it is very
Yeah.
educational, what we get.
Truly is.
I passed out ballots for the chair and vice chair.
So I've never come across wording or rules that say a veterinary technician cannot be a chair or vice chair.
Right, and we discussed that last year, that the chairperson discusses veterinary applications and discipline behind the scenes, and that a veterinarian needs to be in that role, and the vice chair does the liaison. And
So
an
I would
RBT
like-
can't be a liaison.
Okay, well, I would like to bring up that I think that's highly discriminatory. Like, what is my position just for looks on this board, like as a veterinary technician? Like, that, there are so many states, Tennessee has a veterinary technician that's the chair of their board. So to me, so there's been 3 instances where I've totally been discriminated against just for being a veterinary technician on this board. My vote counts just as much. His vote, your vote, it counts just the same. So why am I being discriminated against for being a veterinary technician?
Because the way this board works, we don't have the veterinarians who are investigating the cases. We have the Attorney General's office investigating the cases, and they reach out to the liaisons who are DVMs. Other states have veterinarians working as investigators, and they do, like you said, they meet weekly or monthly to go over those cases. Our board does not work like that by statute. And so we need to have veterinarians in those roles because of the role that they play.
Is there any legal ramifications with this?
I'll look into it for you.
Thank you.
Add your name, we can add your name to the ballot.
I don't
That's
want
what
to
you
be,
really
I
want.
just think it's the rudest thing ever. And it's,
Well, I mean, Natalie can't be a liaison either. I mean, she's not veterinarian. And you as an RVT cannot determine the standard of care for a veterinarian or their qualifications for education.
I think it's wrong. Highly wrong, and I think there's gotta be something illegal with that.
Are you willing to do this again, or what? This is
I'm
just
not
a
sure
yearly
now.
thing we have to do? What do you say?
What's that?
Is this a yearly, the vote?
I think this is annual.
Yeah, it says annual by statute.
Okay.
And
I just don't
that's
understand my
by,
position
that's by
here.
statute, that's not us
No, I
personally discriminating
No,
against
so
you.
even when I asked to be an investigator, you told me, I don't know how a veterinarian would feel getting disciplined by a veterinary technician. It happens in other states. I
We
have
don't
the
hire
same vote as
investigators.
anyone else on this board.
So
But I'm not allowed to do a lot of things. You guys don't see that because you're the veterinarians. But I will never have a majority. I will never have any of those things. I will never have any of those because I'm a veterinary technician.
I don't
And not having my name represented next to all of you is highly, it sucks. I don't want to be the chair, I don't, but it just sucks to not be included. That I'm never going to be on the same field. I'll never be at your level. That's what it looks like to me. And you rolling your eyes at me and doing those kind of things.
I'm not
didn't
rolling my
help
eyes
me.
at anything.
When I first looked over, you said, go ahead.
So
You don't have to be on the board. It's voluntary.
I knew it's voluntary. It's important that I'm here to speak for someone. There was no one here for 5 to 6 years before me.
And that's what, you know,
I just wanted you to know my perspective.
well, I'm glad you're on the board because for that very reason, we didn't have anybody for 5 or 6 years. And you have given us some insight on different cases down through.
It's not just me. I want to make it right for the next person too.
Do you feel like we're discriminating against veterinary technicians? I feel like.
In a way, I don't get the same opportunities. When my board vote counts just the same as anyone else's. But I can't ever be a chair. I can't ever be an investigator. We investigate RVTs. Why couldn't I be on that? That's what my degree's for. When I first asked to go run for the AAVSB board, Dr. Grodenbarger told me, he's like, I just don't think you have enough experience. I was the president of 2 state associations and the national association. If I was president of the AVMA, you would not have said that to me.
I meant in regard to your time spent on this board.
So I counted 1, 2, and 3 strikes over the years, and that was my 3rd strike. And I just wanted to voice my opinion and let you know how I feel. Because I want to make it right for the next person.
Well, I think, Ashley, a couple of things. We've had very few cases where we've been directly dealing with violations that have been committed by technicians.
Well, that's fine.
But in the past, just let's listen to me, in the past, when we had technicians on this committee and a case came up involving disciplining the technician, everyone on this board has immediately looked to the RVT for their input and their opinion on how we deal with substandard care and violations that may have been committed by technicians. We sought input not only from you, but your predecessor. And that's the way I think this board has worked, in not to be intentionally discriminatory.
I know it's not
Your
intentional.
input is valuable on all these technician issues. We don't have the number of cases involving disciplining technicians or substandard care or malpractice. It comes up periodically, and we immediately turn to you for your
Well, you
advice.
could, in those instances, the right choice, I think, could have been, hey, it's gonna be Dr. Schnarr, which is fine, but in instances of veterinary technicians, let's me and you work on those cases. I think that would have been the fair thing to say.
And certainly, I think we can, if there's a case, consumer complaint specifically against a veterinary technician, you could be looped in directly from the Attorney General on that case.
Kind of like what happened with the case we had here. And Dr. Peelman had some questions in particular about the case, and they asked for a conference and asked for Dr. Peelman to be involved with it as well.
Not my idea, but.
And she was not a liaison position, but they requested, we worked it out that way so that she's involved. So if a similar case came up with a technician, then that is, the board can do that.
I just wouldn't be who I am if I didn't tell you what I thought of my perspective about what's happened.
But certainly if a consumer complaint was filed with the OAG directly implicating the registered veterinary technician, I don't think there's anything to prevent the Attorney General from submitting that case to her for review.
I mean, a lot of times it
Is there
is
anything to prevent
whether it's the
that?
appropriate supervision. So I don't know, I'm gonna keep, whoever is the vice chair can make that call on whether or not it should go to Ashley, because I think that puts a lot on the AG's office to be able to determine who the appropriate person is for that. When ultimately, the veterinarian is the expert.
So
regardless.
if a case came to myself,
Regardless of what? Why am I here?
Because
If I
they're
don't
in
have a
charge-
case routine full.
You are
have
a voting
You said-
member.
Yeah, you said several times you have a vote just like the rest of us. That's,
Yeah, but she's saying I
that's the
have,
rule.
that regardless, the veterinarian is the expertise, not on all matters, not on veterinary technician matters.
But I think that's what everyone else is saying too, that we agree with you, that is why there's one. Because, last time we all met, we had a whole group of technicians and we were all like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I love this collaboration. It just so happens that when we have, a collection of DUIs to then talk back and forth on, you also are allowed the same opportunities to speak with
Then
them.
why am I not allowed the same opportunities here?
Because this is a 1-2 officer positions and what their requirements and rules are.
I have not seen it in any of the rules or requirements. Is this it? I have not seen it in any language
This was
that I've
discussed
ever
at
read.
length at the last meeting where we voted last January, and the roles that these positions play. And it was determined that a veterinarian should be in both of those roles.
There are also lots of situations and boards and committees and organizations that are
That's fine. I
more
don't need,
technician oriented.
I'm just letting you know my perspective, and I thank you for looking into the legalities of it for me, because I want to see if there's any antitrust violations or legal issues on the,
Against like us as a group.
not
of
just as a
persons.
group, but to protect the rights of veterinary technicians, that they can be in the same space, that they can hold the same things. Why is AAVSB like making amendments to, get veterinary technicians on every state board? Only half our country has a veterinary technician, just one representative. And sometimes it's just in not even a voting capacity, it's just, oh, hey, if we have a question, we'll ask you. So it's very important, like, I value my seat here, but I have to make sure that I'm using it and voicing it for the people I represent. Does that make sense?
You are,
Does.
but in the roles
This,
where,
this chair position
It has nothing to
doesn't
do
give
with that.
me any more of a vote on anything than you.
And it wouldn't give me any more of a vote
But
than
it gives
you.
me, but it gives me
I
20
don't know
times
why I'm not
more
included.
preparatory work time. It's not something anybody really
It's not,
wants.
I don't want it. I'm just saying it's not okay to not have everyone included. Just because I'm an RBT, I can't sit in that position. I can't ever preside over a board meeting. Like for the board, that doesn't make sense to me.
because he does things behind the scenes that you don't see, that I need a veterinarian to talk to about it. And that's what liaisons do as well.
And,
So that's why I'm not allowed to be any of those things.
and believe it or not, you're not a veterinarian.
I'm not a veterinarian, but I don't think, why is it that in so many other instances, we can have veterinary technicians as chairs and co-chairs? I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but it's just, there's gotta be some discriminatory language
Because
going on
they
with
do
this.
different things than
Okay,
just run
thank
the
you.
meeting. You don't have to
You
yell
are
at
talking
me.
to me with your teeth gritted. Like
No,
you are
I'm not.
so mad at me.
You need to leave.
I
like,
will.
Please leave. You're not gonna sit and yell at me
I'm not
during the
yelling.
board meeting.
You're like
Yes, you
gritting
are.
your teeth to me.
No, I'm not.
I hope you change the rules and stand up for veterinary technicians. Because the things that I've endured those 3 times are highly unfair. Walk out of here. Can you email me that information?
Yeah, look at the election law.
Yeah. I appreciate each and every one of you.
So before we move into elections, I just wanted on the record that Clarence, I think you should talk to your supervisors before you give a board member any advice that would be
Yeah, I wasn't gonna
adverse
do
to the
that. I
board.
just looked into the laws myself just now, and it just says elected chair, vice chair, doesn't specify whether that or vet tech, but logically, I think it makes sense that it would be a vet. Then the legislator gets priority, 7 members, 1 vet tech, 1 consumer member, so obviously legislators getting more vets in that situation, so.
Thank you. So we can go through the ballots and then fold them in half, pass them up to me, and then after the count, we can confirm the next board meeting. And after the meeting, our comms teams wants to show you guys our the BOA Find a Vet feature that we're gonna have online. It's, you guys don't have to do anything with it, it's just a tutorial.
Who's the current vice chair?
Oh.
That's what I thought.
He really wants to.
Were you guys operating in some capacity?
More or
That's
less.
the,
There you
So does Natalie get to vote on the chair and vice chair?
go. I get to vote,
Yeah.
yeah.
Counts just as much as yours.
She can't be in a position.
So how are you feeling about your position as a leader?
Did
I'm
Ashley
serious.
vote?
I know her ballot is still in. How do you feel that's going? Are you comfortable with your role? Do you feel excluded?
I did.
I looked for you a lot of times. You know, on a case or two, I've looked there and said, you make the motion.
I don't know if it's in the statute or not, I haven't read the language of what board appointments look like, but the way that our board functions makes sense to have a veterinarian, because if you're not a veterinarian, then you're just having to call a veterinarian to do all those things.
I think she admitted also that we are more progressive than half the country.
But you feel like your contributions,
Yeah, I don't think you guys could function without me.
Okay.
Touche.
just wanted to give
Said
you,
that out in the hallway.
Definitely take an extra.
wanted to give you an opportunity to let us know. Because sometimes the lay member gets overlooked too. Sometimes your perspective is good because it's totally neutral.
Well, there's
It's
a reason
totally
that they have
objective.
makeup of food boards and super members
and so we don't,
and practitioners.
and so we don't look at things from just one side. You bring a different perspective as well.
I think she was
Clarence, did
wrong,
she vote?
assuming that we don't look for I think she's, yeah.
I'm gonna include hers since she voted.
Oh, I didn't know she did. I didn't see her mark it. Sorry.
Looks like she could run, but she'd have to win the election, so it's not discrimination
What do you say?
statutorily. Looks like that you just select a chairman, vice chairman, it doesn't specify about that text or vets, but she'd have to win the election, which that's not discrimination if you vote against her.
So Dr. Rodenberger will be the chair this year. And
Oh, I marked the wrong thing.
did you?
I did.
Oh,
Sorry.
so someone
I
else
was
is gonna be
looking
chair?
at this table.
Did you?
That's my bad, yeah. I just wasn't. I
On the
was
vice chair?
I did, yeah, I was distracted. Sorry. I wasn't trying to make
You're
any
the-
changes.
Yeah, you're the reason then, that I had to seek counsel.
Sorry. Take that, that's not correct. I can
Come here.
edit it for you. I'm sorry, I got distracted and I was just looking at.
I
the
can't
wrong
imagine
thing.
how.
I did that wrong.
Is this your ballot?
Yes.
I tell you what, my biggest problem is I have a hearing problem. Everybody talks normal here. I assume you all can hear each other talking.
You guys were talking to me when I was trying to vote.
I have, I do, I have an issue with my hearing, obviously.
Does it help when we're this close together?
See, I didn't understand you there.
Yeah, people say that all the time. Does it help when our tables are closer together like this?
Oh, yeah, it didn't hurt, that's for sure.
Dr. Clemente is the vice chair for 2026, and Dr. Sunbury, were you still willing to do the co-liaison role with the AG's office?
Willing if, so if that is the will of. It
The
is.
people.
The people.
I voted 3 times to give you the whole thing.
All right,
Chair, you're the chair, right?
I mean, it's helped me a lot with you taking some of these, because I was burnt on them.
Under additional new business, if we have a second, Paul, do you want to discuss meeting dates moving forward?
You know, it was just a
Take
thought.
a second. No, it's a good thought.
Probably overreacted because of Ashley was concerned about a snow day and this, I've only missed one January, realistically, because my wife is money. You told me I was a win. But
Let's decide it.
But just when we had this weather, the thought was, it just entered my mind, you probably wouldn't be all that open to it. I thought, well, why don't we meet in February, shift them a month? And so if we met in May, we would be catching those new Purdue graduates that have issues that are upset about waiting till the end of June for us to make a decision on their license. So instead of January, April, July, October, we meet February, May, November. Now, that's problematic because the November meeting would be around Thanksgiving. Was just a thought with this weather.
Can we push it out though, because aren't we on 90, or there's a calendar day, so I don't know how we get to the gap.
Yeah.
We would have to.
Go the other direction.
well, I mean, we technically
Yeah.
could figure it out, but those May graduates almost always start applying in January. I mean, I get them every day. So they would, if they had OBWI or something like that, that we had to look at, they would be scheduled for the April meeting.
Because we used to get complaints from Jim Weissman all the time that we had graduates that had to wait till the end of June before they could start working because for whatever reason, they graduate the second or third week in May. They don't apply for their licenses in enough time and then they're backlogged another month. But the weather was part of it. It was just a thought about shifting the meeting.
I just don't know how February, I mean, I've seen a lot of snow in February and March and December and November, so I don't know how that plays into
Well,
it.
typically the January, last week in January, first week in February, we've had issues with the IBMA meetings.
So we pushed IBMA back many years ago, and you still get snow.
Yeah, so, it's fine, we just.
But yet you'd be
It's a good thought.
even a couple weeks
I was
later
just
than.
playing devil's
So-
advocate, because I thought that May meeting might help you with the new.
It's just something.
The
to
new
follow.
grad, I mean,
And it is different, because when we came through, you didn't take your boards until first
Right.
week in June. Now they take them in November of their senior year.
yeah, so
We
they're
couldn't
all
apply
ready to
for a
go.
license till May.
No, we didn't even,
And back in the day, there was a temporary Indiana license. You could work for 3 weeks till your final license came through.
So Dean Marsh actually sent me the conferral letters the day that he conferred their degrees before commencement, and I think I approved licenses for like 23 people or something like that, the day I received the email. So I don't, the only thing that would delay licensing now would be as if they had a self-report of a criminal conviction or something like that. Or if they are, I mean, nothing that would need to come before the board other than a hold for something like that.
We had a few cases of OWIs, public intoxication, somebody's climbing the street sign, carries, drunk and vomiting, gets arrested. They can't get their license till they get because they have to come before us. So forget it, just an idea.
Well, I know
So you would
I know
say-
you brought it up and I thought it was worthy of 5 minutes discussion.
It'd be February, August.
Big jump.
No.
February, May, August,
August,
November.
however.
But my wife said to me, "You sure you want to do a meeting around Thanksgiving time?"
That doesn't bother me.
Well, you're not making the food. It doesn't bother me either. I
Well,
just-
but it wouldn't be on Thanksgiving Day.
I mean, it's not a big deal if this snow had occurred yesterday. Brittany could have emailed us all and said, "Don't come, we're rescheduling."
I actually looked last night just to make sure I hadn't missed it.
But if the weather had done that, then Brittany would have emailed us and saying, we're gonna do it by Teams meeting or Google Meet or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Potentially, right? I mean, that was a,
I have to
that
look at
is,
the rules for that.
I thought it was I don't think the whole board can meet virtually without like some pre-notice, but a minimum, like a number of us.
But there's a voting thing too, like if you can't vote, if you're virtual, you can't vote on certain things. I think that that's part of it. There's a whole thing over there.
we made some adjustments after COVID.
I don't remember exactly, but I sort of feel like, because it was sort of like, you better call it if you can't be there.
Yeah,
Or maybe
there's
there had to be like an in-person forum for it, I don't know. There was
Yeah,
a weird-
there's statutes and rules on the administrative, public meetings, and I'll have to look at those for exactly how we're gonna do it, and we could have pushed it out a week or whatever, but.
I don't really care.
Well, I know Kyle had to leave, but I had one one suggestion on this is, over here on the left, personal appearance, in-person preferred, I think it ought to be mandatory. Because if we've never seen them before,
Yeah, I think this draft, as the other AG that was here, had some issues with it too.
oh, okay.
Okay, is the meeting over?
Meetings adjourned.